to the society. He also called upon the public to commend and appreciate the CBC curriculum.
Teachers have continued to occupy a special place in the upbringing of our children. Teachers are builders of dreams, the crafters of careers, the discoverers of hidden talents, and the shining beacons that set a positive example within our local communities. That never has the role of the teacher been as important as it is today as we recover from this COVID-19 disruptions. Despite government's efforts to keep pupils learning during the pandemic, many of them lost momentum, mainly because of poor learning environments. Also widened education inequality and also led to an increase in teenage pregnancies as well as school dropout.
Education CS Professor George Muga praised President Kenyatta for ensuring that the sector is allocated adequate budget, which has reached 25% of Kenya's budget, which has helped achieve significant development in the sector. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is today expected to preside over the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Lands Coalition Party's first council meeting. Raila Odinga Presidential Campaign Secretariat Press Secretary Dennis Onsarigo, in a statement, said the meeting will be held at the KICC in Nairobi. Among other expected leaders include Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, NARC Kenya's Martha Karua, Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu, and Mombasa counterpart Hassan Joho. Other coalition members are Taveta MP Naomi Shaban, Kandui Legislator Wafula Munyenye, Muranga Women Representative Sabine Shege, Abdinur Omar Farah, and Suna East MP Junet Mohammed, who is the party's National Coalition Executive Council Secretary General. The meeting comes a week after the coalition was officially registered as a political outfit on April 14th. Registrar of Political Parties Anderitu made the announcement in a Gazette notice in which she enlisted all the 26 parties affiliated with the coalition. Among issues expected to be addressed include campaign preparations ahead of the August 9th elections, the Nairobi gubernatorial race, and the deputy president's position. Now, Nairobi County Assembly Speaker Benson Mutura is now claiming that there is a scheme to intimidate him after he was summoned to appear at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations over a charge labeled stealing by a servant. Detectives from the DCI stormed the assembly premises and handcuffed him, ready to place him in custody, but he was uncuffed shortly. Speaker Mutura said he was shocked by their action, adding that it was in contravention of the County Assembly's standing orders to arrest him within the assembly precincts. Mutura went ahead to claim that the fights are political after he recently declared his support for Deputy President William Ruto and became from Jubilee Party to United Democratic Alliance. He further alleges that his woes also emerged after he questioned the legality of extending the Nairobi Metropolitan Services for further 6 months. According to Mutura, NMS is committing an illegality which has not been sanctioned by the Assembly. Now, the High Court has thrown out a petition seeking the suspension of the operationalization of the Political Parties Amendment Act 2022. The three-judge bench consisting of Edwin Gongudi, Esther Mine, and Daniel Ogembo found that it was not unconstitutional. They further found that there was an elaborate public participation that led to the amendment of the Act. They stated that participation started way back in 2017 and took almost 4 years. They also pointed out that stakeholders were involved in the various forums, with members of the civil society attended and secretary generals of all political parties.
The deletion of Section 31, subsection 3 of the Principal Political Parties Act is unconstitutional. 4. Section 34 FD is unconstitutional, as regulation of political party nominations is the mandate of IEBC and not the Register of Political Parties. Save for what we have found in respect of Sections 31, 3, and 34 FD of the Political Parties Amendment Act 22, the petitions fail and are dismissed.
Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe met a team of Moderna that is in Kenya following an MOU to set up a factory in Kenya. The team is led by Shannon Klinger, Chief Legal Officer, and includes Roland Rocafort, Senior Vice President Facilities and Engineering, as well as Dean Garibo, Head of Corporate Security. They are also accompanied by Congressman Ed Royce, Policy Director, Bronston Hyatt Faber Schreck LLP. Kagwe met the team from Moderna alongside his industrialization counterpart Betty Maina, as well as other senior government officials and representatives from the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. This is Newswire. Dennis Seto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Malindi.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Namba the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's Thursday morning and hello Nairobi. What is in store for us this morning? Let's have a quick look and see. There's a little bit of wetness on the roads because of the early morning rains and that which happened overnight, but it doesn't look like much has started in the city this morning. Let's take a look at Uhuru Highway and it's going out into the city with not too much drama. Langata Road free and clear, at least for now. Let's keep an eye on things. 3 accidents have occurred so far on Mombasa Road between the hours of 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock this morning. So already asking folks to be very careful because certain parts of the roads are uneven. We'll keep an eye on that and see what's going on with that. It's picking up slowly on the Thika Superhighway coming into the city. Juja Road doesn't look too bad. Coming off the Eastern Bypass, we should be all right going then towards Outer Ring, which will eventually connect with the Thika Superhighway. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Looks like Thursday morning has started off right. Let's keep it that way. Let's have a look in about half an hour and see what it looks like. For now, text on 40127. I've even forgotten what it is. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yes, it's the only way to start your day, and it's a good way to start your day when she's back. Ndu.
Yeah.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. How's West Africa?
The
entire West Africa.
All of them. They're fine. They're doing well in the hundreds of millions. We are doing well in our hundreds of millions.
So, is it raining?
Yes.
No,
it's just starting.
No floods though.
No floods.
Good.
What I want to know is who sent us greetings?
Everybody, your cousin Chukwuka, your Chukwuemeka being you now, all of them said I should greet you. They said that everything that they've sent to you is just that I would not be able to carry it, but their wishes come with you. They said I should tell you carry go. You know what carry go is?
Connie KQ stopped operating to those sides.
How many things they wanted to send me to carry?
You wanted to bring a whole plane,
the whole
Baba.
house, my friend.
Houses don't fit in planes.
$8 a kilo. You get money.
So, City, you have a plot of land there.
Plots.
Plots.
Plural.
Tona shamba, landowner.
An African who has relatives.
Real estate mogul.
Yes. An African who has relatives. That's a wealthy African.
I greet you all.
Oh, welcome back.
Asante.
Yes. So we said that you were coming back today. And now kuna kila mtu anapata kitu. Lunch.
We also aware
Leo kila mtu anaenda na lunch.
that you couldn't carry a barrel of oil with you on the plane. You pia tulikuwa tunajua.
Mungesema.
No, but we knew the equivalent is what Brother Eric is referring to.
Is that the problem? Lunch or fuel?
Utuletee mafuta.
Oil.
Well,
Oil for cooking. Wait, come. I came back. People finished all the milk in Kenya. What's going on?
No,
there's no milk.
Milk is a problem.
No, it's not.
Is it okay?
Yeah, milk is very okay. Even after we've taken it to our neighboring countries, we still have.
There's milk.
There's milk.
So it's all right.
There are issues with supply of milk. I don't know.
Yes. Milk is not the problem.
Is the supply?
Yeah.
So I thought you people finished it. How many days?
Milk guys want subsidy.
Everybody wants subsidy.
Si oil wanapewa?
Instead of lunch, subsidy.
Oil wanapewa. Ndio. Milk.
Kila mtu anataka subsidy.
You wait. We are going to start hearing about potato.
And they're still not giving you people petrol. Petrol. They're not giving you petrol.
Yeah. No, petrol we have now. Tena plenty.
Okay.
A lot has happened since you were last here.
Apparently.
Some people also thought that they could keep petrol. We told them to go home with their petrol.
I hear somebody was deported.
No, we just asked him to just
step aside.
Just go
for
back
a
where
moment.
he came from. It was not deportation is not just technicality. Yes, he came from somewhere before he came here.
And just go back home.
And somebody tells you to go back home, surely.
No, Allah. Okay.
Just to go.
So a lot has happened.
Go talk to your people.
Go and come
yes.
back.
Get your bearing.
You people have been well though.
Super. We have been well.
I missed you. My mornings have not been the same.
Your stomach problem sorted out. Headaches went away.
Kila kitu. You are now
you're back to the same headaches.
I've refuels.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. We're glad that you're tuned in. Today, we reflect several conversations. At 9 o'clock, we shall talk about what's happening up north. And this is particularly in Marsabit County. You know, even as we were talking about, we were looking at the newspaper headlines yesterday, City, we talked about the unrest in Marsabit.
Yes, we did.
Marsabit town has become a ghost town. People are just getting shot left, right, and center.
In town.
In the middle of town. 2 weeks ago, a 72-year-old man is just walking there, shot several times.
What's going on?
In the head, dead. You know? And this is now becoming a serious issue. We'll be having a leader from Marsabit County who will be joining us today. A woman rep aspirant for Marsabit, Ednah Mamo, will be here with us. And we are framing this as slaughter of the innocent in Marsabit. 9 a.m., that's our conversation. At 8 o'clock, while you are away, Ndu, Kalonzo Musyoka still said that he'd like to be the running mate of Raila Odinga.
Good Lord.
And there are other people who have also now come out to say, no. In fact, we also need a woman as running mate. Others have said the running mate must come from Mount Kenya. So, the Secretary General of Wiper Democratic Movement, that's Kalonzo's party, will be joining us, Shakil Abdallah, 8 a.m. So, which way, Kalonzo? What is Wiper's strategy when it comes to the one, it's called what? Azimio One Kenya Alliance Party.
Coalition, something.
That thing. Okay? Yeah, that's a conversation we'll be having. And then at 7, of course, we'll reflect what's happening in terms of party primaries. The ODM party primaries for Nairobi were to take place today. We understand they've been pushed to tomorrow. What we've seen coming out of Nyanza on ODM party primaries in Mombasa, what we're seeing in UDA, what we're seeing in the other parties, Wiper as well. So we'll be talking about that. But tell us about COVID now that you've come. How did you find COVID there, where you are?
There's no COVID though. No COVID there. 506 million is what we're looking at around the world. 506,966,005. That's what the world is looking at. Let's look at Kenya, where there are 16 new cases from a sample size of 3,183. Positivity rate still low, not bad, of 0.5%. 0 recorded deaths over time. Not quite sure what's happening with vaccinations right now in terms of people getting more. It looks like the numbers are still the same, more or less, that they're still available in the country. And the hope is that more and more people will be vaccinated. 30% of the population is what we're looking at now. There was the hope that we would have been at that 30% by June. So, not bad. Before June, at least one thing. By the way, are we still in March?
Yeah.
Okay. We're still in March? No, Allah. All right. Let's look really quickly at what's happening in China. Still seems to be the epicenter of the newest wave. Whole communities relocated in anti-COVID drive. This is being reported by the BBC. Fresh efforts to relocate entire communities in areas of Shanghai as Chinese authorities enforce extreme measures to try to stop a new wave of COVID. So there was an official notice from party officials, this of course is the Communist Party, in an area in the north of the city to transfer residents to quarantine facilities more than 160 kilometers away. The plan is to move them from their homes to neighboring provinces where they will stay for at least a week. Young children and elderly, those with disabilities could be excluded according to the notice. It said only those who test negative could go. It's not clear why people with negative tests are being moved. Nobody knows this. Officials are under great pressure to cut the risk of transmission and reduce cases to zero. This is days after authorities moved people out of their homes and evacuated population in another area of Shanghai. At least 1,000 people were forced to leave from one town of Bechai and move to temporary accommodation so officials could disinfect the area on the outskirts of the Pudong area in the east of the city. So look at some of the pictures that we're looking at now, where food is being delivered across cities. People are being told to move from their homes so that the city essentially can be disinfected. And only negative folks are being asked to move. Those who are positive are being asked to remain in certain places. And according to this story, there's an outcry. Why should we move from our homes if we are negative? So
that's a big
stuff is long in Shanghai, it would appear.
Behind every story, there's a story, isn't it?
That you relocate an entire population. And you know, of course, you're relocating them, you're housing them, you're feeding them, you're doing everything.
Yeah.
And then tell them, okay, now after 2 weeks, go back home. Leave your house, leave your wardrobe, leave your front door open.
Right.
But Eric, remember, one of the peculiarities about China, if I'm to believe the things that I'm told to be true, is that there are investors who've built entire cities which are not inhabited.
Yep.
Some partially, some not. So the issue of relocation...
It's not for scarcity of shortage of house.
No, not for... They don't have a scarcity of accommodation. It's just the disruption element of movement when people don't seem to understand why it is they're being moved. Again, a story within a story.
That's the issue.
Yes.
Just looking at numbers, really quickly, for you, maybe for us to get some kind of perspective as to why things are happening in this manner, a renewed sign of the extreme lengths to which China is willing to go to stop the spread of COVID, in Shanghai. They recorded about 400,000 cases during this particular outbreak, and this is just in Shanghai alone. The city's 25 million population remain under strict lockdown, which is now in its fourth week, 17 deaths. Nearly all were elderly, unvaccinated residents with underlying health problems. So this is why they're insisting testing, vaccination, clear out those folks who are not positive. Let's disinfect where they've come from, and then later we can see about bringing them back.
You know, if you look at the West, in fact, just the rest of the world, when we want to paint this as, you know, they're draconian, they blah, 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 they're too hard and too tough on the population. But there's also envy. That you can actually just do that. You can
shut down the country.
You can say, let's move, people pack up, people move. There's somewhere where you're taking them, you're able to feed them, then you're able to bring them back, you're able to disinfect, you're able to deal with it at that level. That is the envy of very many governments that would like to do that. And you'll start to, there'll be reports here of, people are protesting. They're not protests.
Even if they were protests.
There are 2 or 3 people, well, let's say 20 people who are
Let's even give them 1,000.
A population of
25 million?
Yes. Eric, human nature being what it is, there will always be people who will protest. But if I go by the strain of thought that you have introduced, you're saying this is a nation who seem to be willing to go to any length to protect the lives of their people. Now, that's not the narrative we hear coming from the West. The protection element and the safety element that is being introduced, the focus is on they're forcing people. There are situations, in all honesty, where if the government doesn't intervene in one way or the other, and people are left to their own wiles, disaster will occur.
Yep.
It's not complicated.
Yep.
And that's why the government is there. Sometimes we may not particularly like it, but there are things they will have to do because they have understood and said, so that our people don't, should we say, come into unnecessary harm. This is what we will institute.
And also, a government has sufficient resources to actually manage that situation for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They have sufficient resources.
Yes.
And the people are feeling, well, you're moving us, fine. You're not telling us that you go look for a bus. Get onto a bus.
Neither are we saying that
you are going to live here. You are going to, this is what you're going to eat. That is the envy of very many governments. Let's take a break at this point. 21 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation is live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, SpiceFM KE. Also having our conversations on Twitter at SpiceFM KE. If you're online, you know what you need to do. Say hello. We're going to be doing our roll call shortly.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been a
I will not listen.
bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Cloudy conditions and a bit of rain in Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 15. At 15, Nakuru is mostly cloudy, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. We'll also see lows of 15 in Nyeri, where it's raining this morning, going to highs of 22. 24 will be the high in a cloudy Eldoret, currently at 13, and that'll be today's low. We're looking at 24 degrees and rain in Mombasa, highs of 29 and lows of 24. Malindi, it's a rainy morning at 26. 29 will be the high, back down to lows of 25. Heavy thunderstorms recorded in Kisumu this morning, going to highs of 27 and lows of 19. It's cloudy in Kakamega, beckoning rain at 16. See highs of 26. Kampala raining as well at 21, highs of 25 and lows of 19, while Dar es Salaam is mostly clear for now at 24. We'll see highs of 31. A mostly cloudy Lagos at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 24, and 12 degrees. Johannesburg is clear, highs of 21 and lows of 11. Clear conditions in Kinshasa this morning at 23, go to highs of 31. Looking out into Beijing, we're seeing, Johannesburg 12, highs of 21 and lows of 11. Beijing is sunny at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 11. Paris is clear at 9, we'll see highs of 20. And we're looking at clear conditions at 8 in London, highs of 17. And New York, still Wednesday night, is clear at 10. We'll see highs of 15 and lows of 6.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, do the do.
Faristo Muganda is in Ebubere Mumias and he says good morning. He's with us until Mwisho. Andrew says good morning from a definitely waterlogged Chalby Drive. Well, all right. Wet morning to you. Dagi Oguta says, good morning, my good people. Tuned in already in Kisumu. It's cold here. Okay, cold at 24 degrees. All right. Welcome back, Asante Sana Dagi. Matilda Make tuned in from South Africa. Good morning to you. Nick Rono says, good morning. This is Nick Rono, always part of the show. Can't imagine life without your sound in my ears. Oh, my goodness. Good morning to you, Roger Sly. Tuned in from Mombasani 001. Good morning, Sky Karish says hello. Angela Nyangs, good to see you as well. Asante Sana. Davy Mwane Ireri says, good morning. Looking forward to some Niger proverbs. City Muga, take notes. Lillian Odenge. It's not me who said, I'm just passing the message.
No, everybody knows that you went to Nigeria to bring proverbs.
We told them. Eric actually promised that you're going to come with bagfuls of proverbs from Nigeria.
I have a good one for you this morning. What else? Good morning, Team TSR. Tuned in. You say I hope you brought some ofu. Actually, fufu is just FU. That's it. Fufu. MCR says it's raining cats and dogs in Mombasa. All right, catch one or two. Robert Mbogo says tune in from Mombasa as well. Tuned in as well is Johnston, and he says hello from Kericho. Lord Moore tuned in from Nairobi, and Waweru Gethe is also tuned in. So many of you online today. I can see you. Yobesh, Gishuru, Willie Bazoo, all of you. Michael Onimbo is buying units, 45 for 1,000 when it used to be 60, and he's asking what on earth is happening in this country.
So it's not even 15% cheaper. It's like 15% more expensive.
My goodness. They got it backwards for him, it would seem. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Welcome to the show, everybody. City, the proverb.
We're in Togo.
Yes,
Togo. Yes, literally next door.
So you're just surrounding Nigeria, Benin, Togo.
Well, I'm looking at those slivers of countries that border.
They really are slivers.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. And you see, when you Google search and look at the Wikipedia, you say, what is it known for? I said, well, lovely beaches, palm-drenched, and then hilltop residents. You know, it reminds me of Mfangano Island, because Mfangano Islands, the islands that comprise Mfangano, there's one particular island called Takawiri.
Yeah.
It actually has white sand. On Lake Victoria, white.
Yeah.
Not painted, white.
White.
Yes. And as for residents, most people live on the hilltop.
Indeed.
Yes.
Togo is just like that. Really beautiful.
Yes. So that's a story yet for another day.
Okay.
Right. Capital is Lome.
It is.
Now, I was looking at the name of the president. I cannot pronounce it. So I'm not going to try.
Why?
All right.
Okay.
Just try.
Faure. Faure.
Gna.
Gna Singnube. Told you.
Gna Singnube.
Yes. Told you. I am sure that those who know how to pronounce it will pronounce it seamless and it will sound so wonderful. I apologize for having massacred the name, but
the G
I'm reading it as it is written. Okay.
The G is silent.
So all the G's are silent.
Except the last one. The first one is silent, the second one is not.
The G silent.
The first G.
The first G silent. So it's Nasi.
Nasingbe.
Nasingbe. See, I told you, those who know how to pronounce it, they're not going to twist their tongues around the nga and the gi. So, here. Right. Proverb. Breed a serpent and he will strike you when you're in deep slumber.
Breed a serpent and he will strike you when you're in deep slumber. Nyoka ni nyoka tu.
Na pia mtoto ya nyoka
ni nyoka. When it's time to kula you, it will kula you.
Without asking whether you fed it or not.
Yes. Okay.
Talking of snakes, I had a classmate.
I had a pet snake. I was waiting.
No. I had a classmate. The guy's name was Hairsign. Still remember him.
The guy's name was?
Hairsign. That was his surname. I don't know what his first name was. We were known by our surnames in school.
Hairsign.
Hairsign, yes.
Okay.
That was the name.
Okay.
That guy had a pet baby snake.
Yeah.
He used to hang out with. And he would even allow the snake to bite him from time to time. He says, you feel a little buzz.
Sounds like my biology teacher in high school. I feel a little buzz.
They're very strange people on this planet.
I swear.
So when you feel like, sometimes when you feel like scratching the back of your throat, it just insert the snake.
Snake in cock.
Scratch for me.
Move it out. Thank you, snake.
You guys are nuts.
Okay, let's look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Have you become one of our online community members? Please subscribe. The premium content that's being promoted today is this one. A man who is famous for saving gold miners from death. Fred Abuti, also said to be treating STDs and infertility, is an interesting story. You will find it there.
Mm.
I don't know whether he's one of those that you find posters on electricity posts.
Poles, daktari wa? God.
Daktari hodari. Kona dawa ya ugonjwa,
etc. Mapenzi.
Kufunga biashara.
Kupoteza maadui.
In the papers, let me just look at this one, then we take a break. So there's this chap. A chap is called Hussein Abdullah Muhammad, also known as H. Kubwa. So on this day, on March 29th, in Magongo Mwisho, Mombasa, H. Kubwa and some 3 others allegedly attacked a police officer with machetes, stole from her, and assaulted her afterwards. She was going to work. They made away with her bag, which had her police uniform. Are we together? So
Robbed a cop.
they robbed a cop on her way to work.
Hey. Okay.
She has a uniform in the bag. They were carrying pangas, robbed her, step up, took off.
They didn't harm her though.
They assaulted her.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah.
So there's no robbery.
So now
robbery
it's
with violence.
robbery with violence. They were arrested. They were taken to court. They were arrested on the 3rd of April. 3 days later, taken to court and charged with robbery with violence at the Mombasa law courts. This is where the story begins. While awaiting to be transported to Shimolatewa prison, Hussein Abdullah Muhammad, alias H. Kubwa, sneaked out of the court's underground holding cells. Central Police Station's Leonard Mutai told the court that there was a report of 6 remandees escaping from the custody, with Muhammad being one of them. He said, "We are still trying to track down the suspect and the others who escaped from the cells." Muhammad was rearrested on Monday and charged on Tuesday with escaping from lawful custody of the police. But the suspect alleged that he had paid police officers 30,000 shillings to facilitate his escape. He told the court senior principal magistrate Vincent Adet that the officer had assured them that he would tear their file and make it disappear. "We paid 30k to a police officer who let us escape from the cells, and he told us that he would tear the file and the matter would disappear from the court." This was on the 6th of April. Mohammed escaped with Francis Mokaya Mosioma and Daniel Kimani from the holding cells in Mombasa's law courts shortly after being charged. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, just continue. Then I'll ask you later.
Yeah, he escaped twice.
So that's what I was saying. Am I following that this is the second escape now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
In the span of a few days. All
yes.
right.
In 2 weeks,
Okay.
chap escapes police custody twice.
Okay.
Okay. So now police are looking for him.
The same police who allegedly received 30,000 shillings to facilitate his escape are now looking for him.
Yeah.
Most strong thing.
Robbery with violence is charge number 1.
Yes.
Taken back to court. Escaping from lawful custody.
Charge number 2.
Escapes.
Can't charge him twice for that one, at least. Double jeopardy. Does it work in a non-murder case? Good Lord.
Hey. Yeah, interesting story from Mombasa. So let's take a break on that note. Tell us how the roads are looking like. You said there were 3 accidents earlier this morning on Mombasa Road.
Yeah, doesn't look pretty at all. Yeah.
Hey. 26 minutes to 7. Time for that quick break.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
All right, opening up to be a pretty busy morning in Nairobi. We're looking at it building up on Uhuru Highway, getting into the city and then out towards Westlands. Coming off Wayaki Way, we're seeing a little bit of action here and there, but Rowan Road Westlands look pretty good as you're getting out towards Riverside and then out towards Chiromo. It's free and clear for now, getting into the city. We're seeing that build up on the Thika Superhighway, however, between the Pangani Underpass and then going out towards Muthaiga Square. That's built up some, and we're looking at bumper-to-bumper action there. Further ahead on the Thika Superhighway, going going towards the junction of Outer Ring, and well past that, we're also seeing a buildup of traffic and are likely to continue for some time. Industrial area, and we're looking at Landy's feeding onto Jogo, and then coming out towards Likoni, Lunga. That's free for now, but let's keep an eye on things and see how it opens up later. Let's look on the Eastern Bypass, where traffic has already started. Mombasa Road also, inbound traffic right around Imaradaima, and that's going to build up some. The road is unbelievably even in many parts. That's what's causing these accidents that we are seeing this morning from all reports. So let's be careful while we traverse this morning, shall we? And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay.
So a prison worker who allegedly earned 20,800 shillings every month somehow is really rich. The story came from the EACC a couple of days ago, and then we saw, of course, it was reported. An employee who allegedly received 257 million from the State Department for Correctional Services for supplying nothing, used part of the loot to purchase property for a colleague who worked in the accounts section. Okay? Supplying
as
nothing.
A gift.
I mean, I can do for you, Abi. We're friends. We work together. I can do for you.
Uh-huh.
According to documents filed in court by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Mr. Eric Kipkirui Mutai withdrew 133 million shillings in cash for unspecified purposes.
Stop.
Please. Yes, sir.
Someone goes to bank.
133 million.
Withdraws.
Yeah.
Can you go back a little bit and just tell us, start again?
Maybe I can explain as I go along.
Okay.
Be able
That
to find
would be
out.
a wonderful thing.
You see now?
Thank you. Yes.
Voila. He then used the balance. Okay. The unspecified purposes, he paid some money from the 133 million, all right? He then used the balance to buy property, including land in Kericho, Kipchimchim, which he registered in his father's name. The documents further show. Mutai, a cleaning supervisor, is believed to have received the money through 7 trading companies, which allegedly conducted business with prisons in Nairobi. A firm named Unique Supplies is said to have received 73 million shillings. Hornex Logistics received 62 million. Hygienic Ventures 51 million. Nerimas General Agencies 22 million. White Unicorn Logistics 10 million. Trecris Services 13.6 million. And Facton Logistics 13 million. Now, through Facton Logistics, the court documents show the suspect credited a sum of 6 million into the accounts of Signature Cars for purchasing a vehicle and paying 675,000 to Jubilee Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
He made some other payments through all these other companies, according to court documents. 2-point-something million here, 8.5 million to purchase a house through housing finance, blah, blah, blah. Leaving a very nice trail for anybody who was going to pick up the breadcrumbs to find out what he did. Okay? Places like DT Dobi, etc., Toyota Kenya.
Buying brand new car,
I'm telling
showroom,
you, just,
zero mileage.
Spoiling the everything.
What is?
I mean... After all, 257 million is not chicken what? It's not chicken change. Investigations by the EACC established that Mutai traded with his employer and through his 7 companies irregularly received a total of 257,220,500 shillings for goods not what? Supplied. He used false documents to confer a benefit to himself and his colleague, Mr. Moses Sirengo. He abused his office by conferring a benefit to himself. His firms were allegedly paid for the supply of food and rations to 7 prisons in Nairobi. The EACC, however, says that nothing was supplied. The prisons the suspect is said to have transacted with were Kamiti Main Prison, Nairobi Remand, Nairobi West Prison, Langata Women's, Kamiti Medium, Kamiti YCT, and Nairobi Medium. He disguised himself with the support of colleagues as a ghost supplier by using false documentations to plan, execute, and confer to himself a benefit in contravention of the Constitution, the Public Affairs Ethics Act, the Public Officers Ethics Act, and the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. Yet he is a public officer. So how? Mutai has been an employee of the prison since 2009. He was employed as a senior support staff based at the procurement section in Teleposta Towers in 2017. Documents indicate Homex, one of his companies, was paid for supplying vegetables, while Hygienic Ventures was paid for the supply of hair and sanitary products, etc., of which he never did.
To one of those companies, it's called Air Supplies. What did he say?
Hair.
No, one of the companies. This company is called something Supplies.
Let me tell you just
Smart
now.
Supplies.
So there are 7, yeah? There's Unique Supplies.
That one.
Homex.
So that should tell you enough. They're saying he did not supply anything.
Nothing. Of these things that he
Unique
supposedly
supplies.
supplied. He was supplying unique things. He never supplied any of these things. But then the thing is that the EACC, like I said, were able to really easily trace a lot of these things. It is not possible, according to them, that you earn 20,800 shillings per month and then you're buying vehicles worth 6.8 million shillings directly from the showroom. You're buying vehicles of 8.5 million shillings, homes of 8.5 million shillings. You're buying direct from showroom another vehicle, Toyota Kenya. You're buying 750,000 shillings for sir?
It's not an impossibility.
After earning 20,000 shillings per month.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, but you're in business.
And
it's
a miracle.
It's not illegal.
If it happens once, you could say this is really miraculously miraculous. But we've seen it. See, we're just now being entertained with this story from the prison services. There's a gentleman who worked for Kenya who also did similar magic. Him even owned schools. Yes, remember.
There was yet another gentleman in the same prison service who 460 million shillings.
You
and
got
they never actually saw anything.
In Kenya Revenue Authority, okay? These are the stories we've heard of. If we went to each and every county that we have in this country of ours, you would be amazed at lowly officials whose salaries don't even get to 50,000, who own things that make your eyes go in circles and then backwards and forwards. So, what we are seeing is bringing to light a situation that exists in our country. Eric and I, by the way, this particular gentleman, we were introduced to him yesterday.
You met him?
Well,
in the news.
In the news, just like, yeah. No, it's all right. It's a story worth telling again, by the way. You know why?
I saw the story on the news a couple of days ago.
We asked this question. This guy's not leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. He's leaving loaves.
Wallahi.
Okay. So, is it that he is the one who came up? Eric said, this guy is not the mastermind. This guy is just the patsy. He's the guy.
This guy is the mule.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
The 133 cash, that one went to people who understand that you receive cash, you can untrace it. You can make it untraceable. You can look for it and look for it and look for it. But our brother here,
but it'll be difficult. It's not for lack of imagination. Look, you earn a salary of 20,000 shillings and you're going to live a certain lifestyle because of the business that you're doing. There is no way you can hide that lifestyle. No, even if we said, you employed some very clever accounting and, there's no way you can trace how the money entered the account and left the account. The money entered the account, the money left the account, okay? But you are now here, you have this vehicle you're driving, even if that vehicle is owned by a shell company, which is owned by another shell company. The point is you're driving a car from showroom, 0 mileage, DT Dobby, that's a Mercedes, with the 20 Gs. And you started working for government in 2009. Aye, buana.
Precisely.
Atakama.
Precisely. That's why we asked the question, are we willing to actually talk about this thing openly and talk about the people who make these things possible? Because every time we are faced with these situations, we are presented with a hapless-looking person. You wonder, like in this person also, not to downplay and to disregard a fellow Kenyan, but surely.
You know what I think?
Yeah.
I think if this fella's been able to get away with this until now, this 257, like you're saying, if he's the mule or the patsy, that there's somebody who's gotten away with much, much more.
Some people. Think of that chain. Think of that chain. How do you get such a person to get so many orders from the system?
Yeah.
Start there. Who is involved?
Guy just joined this department, what, in 2019?
2017.
2017.
Yeah, 5 years ago. And then
Just
suddenly,
the other day when Uhuru was saying, I, Uhuru Kenyatta,
The
this guy
other
was
day.
saying, I, my friend.
I Mutai.
Hey.
I Mutai with my 7 companies.
Kuna.
And he's opened company 1. Yeah. Then he get the cojones to open 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Get paid. And you don't supply anything. There must be somebody who signs that you supplied.
And is facilitating this to happen.
Kuna. City, what story are you looking at?
I am looking at a political story. And let me tell you the political story that I'm looking at, because I find it to be particularly and peculiarly interesting. Remember, we did say when the nominations began that the stories about the nominations will emerge after the nominations. Well, they're beginning to emerge. There's one particular story that I found particularly interesting. This is on page 12 of the Standard. Headline, and I will read. 5 want courts to cancel UDA primaries for using wrong register. They argue that the party did not have its own register, those who took the matter to court. They were allowed, and they were saying they who took the matter to court, they were allowed to participate in the process despite not being members of UDA. They say they were members of Jubilee. And they also say that the register that UDA UDA used, was the IEBC register and not
the
UDA
register.
Yes. So they're saying they want these things nullified because it confuses and it obfuscates the very process of the UDA nominations, which should have allowed genuine UDA members to actually participate rightfully in the elections.
But these guys are not UDA members.
I have a question.
They say they're not UDA members, but they were allowed.
So what is their problem?
So now they want to stop the UDA nominations.
That's what I was asking. Who is the complainant here?
They are proof. They are proof that it was irregular.
They how? Because they're on the register?
No,
because they participated.
I was going to ask you, who is the complainant here?
The evidence is complaining.
So they participated in this process, which then is clearly flawed because they shouldn't actually be on this register.
Someone walks to a bank, gets into the vault, walks out with money, sues the bank.
And says, I shouldn't have been allowed in here. But for some reason I was.
This bank has flouted its own security expectations.
Nothing where Musa Nogos.
There's a gentleman who is representing them called Ndegwa Njiru.
That lawyer.
Yes, that one, that lawyer. And he's saying these things need to be nullified.
Well, come on.
So what's the argument? The argument is that the Political Parties Act says you need to use the party.
No, they're supposed to submit a list of its registered members to the IEBC on April 9th. That was when they were supposed to have submitted last date, April 9th. And use the same register for party primaries. The argument is that despite the provisions allowed many voters who are registered as Jubilee members, it allowed them to participate in the party primaries, which have resulted in nominations of candidates who do not have support of real UDA party members.
It's going to be an interesting one. Because remember, soon after the Political Parties Act was amended and assented to by the President, which requires that, yes, now only members of a political party and a certified register from the Register of Political Parties are the ones who are going to participate. Someone went to court, and the court said that you can use that register, or you can use an IEBC register, or you can use any other legitimate register that you have. So if any other legitimate register that you have has the name...
and an IEBC register is a legitimate register. You see, why this particular story arrested my interest is because it symbolizes just the sort of issues that political parties have and which will be now brought to light. Because so long as people are campaigning for nominations, everything is okay. They're all members of that party. The moment someone loses,
Quisha.
Then you start hearing the underbelly of what actually went on and what didn't go on and how it happened and who did what and what didn't happen and so forth and so forth.
And if you're asking to live in an ideal world, then you would have to take issue with that, because it shouldn't be that because you lose out on something that you're going to turn out that is now when you shine the spotlight on the things that could be going wrong. In an ideal world, you would ask that whether you were in a winning position or not, if the process or the system was flawed in any way, that you should shed as much light on it if you win as much as if you lost. And that's the thing that they're saying, look, if this system is flawed, it is flawed. Whether you win or lose, if something is going wrong, you should be able to call it out. But we find this calling out only takes place when somebody has gotten the short end of the stick.
But consider also, this is UDA. What do you think? Do you think that what we're hearing of UDA is different from what has happened?
No, it's the same across.
It's not unique to UDA.
But these fellows add a little icing on this particular cake. They say they're also accusing the registrar of political parties for allowing UDA to use IEBC register for elections. Yes, instead of enforcing the law to ensure that genuine party members only took part in the exercise.
Really,
I think this is a good thing, because what the amendment to the Political Parties Act was trying to cure was that thing of we are running a party primary, so I sponsor people to come and vote for the weak candidate in that party. So that weak candidate faces me in the general election. I'm in a different party.
Yeah, I sponsor a weaker person because I feel that I would be able to beat this person.
We are gonna solve it. As we talk about elections, Okoh Mtata,
here we go,
president of the Wanyonge of Kenya, is in court, and he says he wants IEBC to bar politicians with questionable integrity and those facing criminal charges from contesting in the August polls. In his suit, he argues that IEBC has the power to bar politicians with tainted character or records from contesting. He wants the court to order them to implement constitutional provisions on leadership and integrity. According to Okoh Mtata, allowing persons with a tainted past to vie for public office poses a threat to Kenya's constitutional order, and electing leaders who have a history of corruption is detrimental to the country's good governance in the war against graft. So, suit is in court. In response, the IEBC's Director of Legal and Public Affairs, Crispin Owie, has responded and said, we'd like to, but we actually don't have the power. There's a law, and there's also case law. Case law in this particular case is 2013, where the High Court in 2013 cleared Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta and Dr. William Ruto to vie in the 2013 general election, despite them facing cases in court. And the court then said that somebody has the right to contest in an election because of the presumption of innocence of any accused person. This person should be. The commission understands the court's decision in the case against President Kenyatta and DP Ruto that we must strike a balance between the right of an individual to contest in an election and the presumption of innocence. In 2013, the case against Uhuru and Ruto was filed by the International Center for Policy and Conflict. A 5-judge bench of the High Court declared that the Constitution protected their political right to contest and that they were presumed innocent unless convicted by the ICC. We have had this conversation before. Remember, we hosted the EACC and the IEBC on the same day at the same time. And they were saying the same thing. Look, that's what the law says. But also the law says that you must allow somebody to go through due process. Right. Until that point, when they are convicted, you cannot say that you cannot vie, because EACC told us what we do is when we receive a request from IEBC, we give them back a report. So-and-so, City Muga, has a case in court over corruption. So-and-so is currently facing investigations over corruption or murder or whatever. This is what we present to the IEBC. The IEBC looks at it and says, okay, has City Muga been convicted? Not yet. Has Ndu Okoh been convicted? Not yet. Has Eric been convicted? Not yet. So despite them having all this and publishing them, we cannot stop them from running. And I remember that point, I kept harping on it and saying, the thing is, it's okay, the law bars you, but allow us, the voters, to actually know that there's a proceeding against this particular person in court.
Yes.
Put it on billboards.
So that we can make an informed decision.
Put radio adverts.
Yes.
And say, City Muga is facing... Okay, let me use
No. City Muga is a good example.
Okay. City Muga...
His charges is that he's poor and he shouldn't be. Yes.
Wow.
You shouldn't vote for him, because if you vote for him, he'll steal everything you have.
He'll steal everything that you have.
Every argument that they're going to give for this, rather, is hinged on the law. They're not going to run away. They're not going to run away from anything because of the fact that the law states thus, right? So any other avenue that they would use would have to be social communication.
Yeah.
To be able to, just like you're saying, to tell people, look, this case, and give the details of the case. Case number 1, 2, 3 against this individual.
So-and-so.
Case number this again. that's the only way you can let people know. They will only be able to make an informed choice if you give them the information.
But there's this little wrinkle in our understanding of corruption and ill intentions and all these ills we speak of, because and I'm including myself in the we haven't internalized the harm to the community, to the individual, to the country, that these thefts, that these wrongdoings actually, and how the very things we keep clamoring for are actually hindered by these. So long as we are concerned, we have a hierarchy of ills. When someone steals from the government, it isn't considered a very bad thing.
No, it isn't.
Sorry, it's okay.
It's like a Robin Hood moment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, precisely. Why do you think Kenyans have internalized this? Just give us ours, Use story mingi, just leave. Just give us our share, and then you carry on with whatever you're doing. At every moment you meet people who you feel are in positions to pilfer, you want your share of the loot. If he gives you a share, it is okay.
And it's taking us in the wrong direction.
It is in the completely
wrong
direction.
The government says the government is expressing concern that an unusually high number of economic criminals and their accomplices may buy their way into parliament and county assemblies. Matiang'i made the revelation at a gathering of bishops and senior clergy of the Anglican Church in Nairobi. He said intelligence points to a possibility of up to 40% of elective seats being won by criminals relying on bribery and questionable funds. If we are not careful, he said, by the time we are done with this electoral cycle, we would have laundered criminals into our institutions. These include money launderers, wash players, drug dealers, and others who can access large sums of money. He is warning that electing criminals will expose the country to bad laws and also make it hard to fight corruption. Such leaders are likely to support laws that favor crime and that weaken oversight agencies. The CS also was drawing linkages between economic crimes and early campaigns, saying only such activities could fund prolonged political rallies and heavy expenditure. This time is a time in Kenya where we the subject of discussion at the British House of Commons because some companies associated with gambling were used as conduits to launder money. So intelligence is already showing 40% of people that we are going to elect are people who are of questionable character.
But they've been cleared.
It also says something about look, these are people that we know. There's nobody who is a wash person and then comes back home and they are driving these Lamborghinis and all and they're seeking to be a member of parliament. And you know this guy.
You know the person.
You know this
You
guy.
know this guy and where he comes from. And suddenly he's landing in a helicopter, he's driving big cars, and you're like,
surely.
But you are like, who you do to attack?
Martha Karua put it very well when she was on this show. Remember? This business, somebody comes in here, and so long as the thief is from your community, it's like he's stealing on your behalf. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Right.
And you feel, well, whatever he takes, he brings some of it home. No.
A thief is a thief.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
But have we internalized the real harm of all this? I think the county system will bring this message home clearly. When you see one or two individuals whose backgrounds we full well know, suddenly displaying some vulgarity of wealth that you had never seen, and yet the poverty of the people in that particular county simply deepens.
I really think, and that's the thing, is that for a lot of people, if you look at development circles, for example, you're only able to see the benefit of something when it's put in numbers. And so here it is, where you say, look, 500 million shillings stolen, for example, which is what is alleged that this individual has done. This is what it can do for you. The things you're crying about today.
Just point out. There's a hospital. You see this hospital here?
This
it
hospital
lacks
that's
this, and the other.
Could be
that could have cost 100 million.
This road that you're crying about every day that you have to walk on and push your cart on could
have been cheaper. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Plus, we'll be reminding you about Colgate and what Colgate wants you to help them do. Buy Colgate from Naivas. 10 bob goes to sinking 30 wells by the end of this calendar year. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged teachers to encourage students to pursue blue-collar jobs rather than concentrate solely on white-collar jobs. President Kenyatta told teachers at the 45th Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Summit in Mombasa to expose students to many ways they can earn a lot of money and not limit them to office jobs. He claimed that blue-collar jobs like farming and welding pay significantly more than white-collar jobs. President Kenyatta also stated that children should be encouraged to use their talent, citing examples of billionaire Bill Gates.
Teachers have continued to occupy a special place in the upbringing of our children. Teachers are builders of dreams, the crafters of careers, the discoverers of hidden talents, and the shining beacons that set a positive example within our local communities. That never has the role of the teacher been as important as it is today as we recover from this COVID-19 disruptions. Despite government's efforts to keep pupils learning during the pandemic, many of them lost momentum, mainly because of poor learning environments. Also widened education inequality and also led to an increase in teenage pregnancies as well as school dropout.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is today expected to preside over the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance Coalition Party's first council meeting. Raila Odinga, Presidential Campaign Secretariat Press Secretary Dennis Onsarigo, in a statement said the meeting will be held at KICC Nairobi. Among other expected leaders include Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, NARC Kenya's Martha Karua, Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu, and Mombasa counterpart Hassan Joho. Other coalition members are Taveta MP Naomi Shaban, Kandui Legislator Wafula Munyenye, Muranga Women Representative Sabina Shege, Abdinur Omar Farah, and Suna East MP Janet Mohammed, who is the party's National Coalition Executive Council Secretary General. The meeting comes a week after the coalition was officially registered as a political outfit on April 14th. Registrar of Political Parties Anderitu made the announcement in a Gazette notice in which she enlisted all the 26 parties affiliated to the coalition. Among issues expected to be discussed include campaign preparations ahead of the August 9th elections, the Nairobi gubernatorial race, and the deputy president's position. Nairobi County Assembly Speaker Benson Mutura is now claiming that there is a scheme to intimidate him after he was summoned to appear at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations over a charge labelled as stealing by a servant. Detectives from the DCI stormed the assembly premises and handcuffed him, ready to place him in custody, but he was uncuffed shortly. Speaker Muturi said he was shocked by their action, adding that it was in contravention of the county assembly standing orders to arrest him within the assembly presence. Mutura went ahead to claim that the fights are political after he recently declared his support for Deputy President William Ruto and he come from Jubilee to United Democratic Alliance. He further alleges that his views also emerged after he questioned the legality of extending the Nairobi Metropolitan Services for further 6 months. According to Mutura, NMS is committing an illegality which has not been sanctioned by the Assembly. And the High Court has thrown out a petition seeking the suspension of the operationalization of the Political Parties Amendment Act. The three-judge bench consisting of Henry Kanguri, Esther Maina and Daniel Ogembo found that it was not unconstitutional. They further found that there was an elaborate public participation that led to the amendment of the Act. They stated that participation started way back in 2017 and took almost 4 years. They also pointed out that stakeholders were involved in the various forums which members of the civil society attended and secretary generals of all political parties.
The deletion of Section 31, subsection 3 of the Principal Political Parties Act is unconstitutional. 4. Section 34FD is unconstitutional as regulation of political party nominations is the mandate of IEBC and not the register of political parties. Save for what we have found in respect of Sections 31, 3 and 34FD of the Political Parties Amendment Act 22, the petitions fail and are dismissed.
Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe made a team from Moderna that is in Kenya following an MOU to set up a factory in Kenya. The team is led by Shannon Klinger, Chief Legal Officer, and includes Roland Rocafort, Senior Vice President Facilities and Engineering, as well as Dean Jaribo, Head of Corporate Security. They are also accompanied by Congressman Ed Royce, Policy Director, Brownston hired Fabi Shrek. Kagwe met the team from Moderna alongside his industrialization counterpart Betty Minor, as well as other senior government officials and representatives from the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. This is Newswire. I'm Danny Sasseto. Good morning.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and we're seeing a little bit of a mess happening on Mombasa this morning. Coming from the ICD, this is just past the Way Bridge out towards the SGR. That's really slow today. There's the option of using the ICD and then joining with the Southern Bypass. Might be easier than this mess that's happening and going out towards General Motors all the way from Maradima. We have some of that spilling over to North Airport Road and then onto Outer Ring, and some then going towards the Eastern Bypass. So this looks like something to contend with this morning. Plus the flurry of accidents that happened earlier on. Thank goodness that's out of the way. Hopefully then we can move on with the traffic out towards the city. It's building up on Langata Road. It's also doing the same on Gong Road. Heading out towards Rilo Dingo doesn't look too bad. Uhuru Highway is already starting to pack up, and we're seeing mass action on the Thika Superhighway today. Bumper to bumper traffic. It doesn't look pretty at all. Coming off of Kiambu Road as well. Looks pretty crazy. We're going to keep an eye on things and see how it opens up towards 7:30 or so. But it looks like Thursday is opening up to be really, really busy. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things tucked in, shall we? And be safe.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 8 minutes after 7.
Only
Good
way
morning.
to start
it's the
your
21st day of March 2022. Still in March. We know why. We know what we are expecting. This means that we may not have elections this year.
At this rate.
At the rate we are going. Hey, you know. Anyway, City has the day's proverb.
I do. Breed a serpent, and he will strike you when you are in deep slumber.
Breed a serpent, and he will strike you when you're in deep slumber. She may not be striking, may just be bringing you an apple.
There's that possibility.
Be wary of serpents carrying apples.
Just be innocently.
History doesn't paint them in good light.
He notices you're asleep, so it wants to wake you up. So it just, just bites you kidogo.
I'm lonely.
Come eat apple. Apple good for you.
Yes, apple good.
Yes.
So happens that, unfortunately, its fangs have carry poison. Now, can you blame it?
No.
What
you
do you
actually
want it to
can't.
do?
You actually can't.
As in, I was trying to wake you.
It doesn't have a hand that it could have, used the hand.
It has teeth instead.
Okay. This is Togolese.
This is Togolese.
All right.
Otherwise known, my friend, as the Togolese Republic.
Okay. This is the Togolese Republic.
Yes.
All right. It is Kivumbi time, and elections are taking place. We've seen nominations that have been taking place, around the country for various political parties. Jubilee is the one that has decided, we are going to have our nominations in full consensus. Full. In some cases, it doesn't seem to be consensus, but, well, yeah.
You define
we
consensus.
Are going to have consensus.
You define
with
consensus.
many variations.
Exactly. Consensus, how it feels on a Thursday morning, it's okay.
Yeah, definition of consensus can be varied. but there's consensus. That's the bottom line. In other cases, parties such as ODM are using the various structures that they have. One is consensus. Two is let people go to the primaries and face off using universal suffrage. They have not yet employed the use of party delegates in any of their primaries yet.
Not yet.
But we don't know. ODM was supposed to have the primaries in Nairobi, in Kajiado, and was it in Narok as well? That was going to take place today. I think they've pushed them to tomorrow.
22nd.
Yeah. And they've said tomorrow is a better day. Friday is better for these things. Thursday.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it could rain, whatever reason they gave.
Could be traffic.
But we've seen what's happened, especially in Kisumu. So the Kisumu nominations were taking place, when was it? Tuesday and yesterday. Where Kisumu Central, good one. The current MP, Fred Oda, he joined the list of nomination losers after he was beaten by businessman Joshua Oron in a tightly contested poll. Oda became the first and the only MP in Nyanza to lose in the nominations as the party concluded the exercise in Kisumu County. The winner, Oron, garnered 6,842 against Oda's 5,362. The other candidates included Oburu Oginga's son, Elijah, who came fourth. And he got how many votes, City?
174.
174,000.
174, full stop. Meaning when you move from 174, you go to 180, then 190, then you get to 200.
No, when you move from 174, you go to 175.
I'm talking whole numbers. 174.
The winner got 6,842.
Yes.
And you're saying Elijah got?
174, according to this report in the papers. Don't joke with the voter.
Yeah. So
Consensus?
Kisumu Central is serious. Current MP wewe kwenda nyumbani. Ati you who son?
Odinga.
Oburu. It's okay. We know you. We know you, but we are voting for.
Yeah, thank you very much. But
we are voting for Ron. Okay, that's how it went. In the race for woman rep, former Deputy Governor Ruth Odinga, who is now the sister to Oburu, who is the auntie to
Elijah.
got 23,655 votes, with her closest opponent, Rose Kisia, garnering 13,999 votes. Okay? So that is why it went very well for her. In the parliamentary races, 2 sitting MPs won nominations and will fly the party flag. They include Muhoroni's James Koyo, who garnered 4,042 against businessman Hezron Makobewa's 3,317. Former majority leader Samuel Ongo came third with 1,081 votes. In Nyakach, sitting MP Aduma War will defend his seat on an ODM ticket after winning the party primaries, 3,893 votes against his competitor Pauline Ochieng, who got 300 votes. So this is what's happening. In terms of members of parliament, the current sitting MPs, most of them, apart from Fred Ouda, have gotten their nomination tickets. Okay? And those that then have moved to other seats, fine. However, in the MCA, on the MCA side, the biggest casualties of the primaries are ODM MCAs in Migori, who are allied to Governor Okoh, who has been giving the party sleepless nights after he decamped and joined PDP. In Kisumu, 20 MCAs out of 32 MCAs, including Majority Leader Kenneth Onyango, home. A number of voters told the Standard that most of the MCAs that they opted to send home failed to undertake the roles that they were charged with and instead opted to praise the executive. They also claimed others defied the party that sponsored them during their term in office and have not pushed for ODM's agenda on the floor of the House. In the entire Nyanza region, a majority of the MCAs have been shown the door. In Migori, only 5 MCAs survived the purge, while in Homa Bay, only 5 survived. A similar trend witnessed in Siaya, where only 4 MCAs have survived. ODM members in Siaya claiming that most of their MCAs relocated to Kisumu after winning seats in 2017. A voter in Kisumu, Josephat Otieno, claims they send all their MCAs in the sub-county home because of poor performance. MCAs have basically been told,
thanks. We have an eye on you.
Cheers.
Yeah. It's okay.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. There's another story as we get now into discussing it. These two, they had approached the ODM nominations with great optimism, and they were among those who were keen to clinch the coveted ticket in Nyanza to contest MCA seats. But if the results of the nominations are anything to read from, some aspirants who got not more than 2 votes in the party primaries might have to reconsider their circles.
2.
3 MCA hopefuls got a combined tally of 4 votes. 3 MCAs got a combined tally of 4 votes.
Are we to assume these people don't have relatives?
With 2 from Migori bagging 1 vote each, while in Kisumu, an aspirant got 2 votes. 2 guys in Migori, they voted for themselves. Nobody else did.
Hopefully.
Nobody else did.
Hope is that they actually voted for themselves.
This one in Kisumu was only voted on by 2 people. This is despite the fact that the aspirants dedicated resources and conducted intense campaigns to convince ODM members to consider them in the polls. Results mean even the people who had portrayed themselves as their die-hard supporters, including their own family members and agents, might not have voted for them.
It's very sad. People are sending a message.
But that's a wrong message. You've been telling me Mheshimiwa, and then you go to the ballot, you don't even vote.
Or maybe you're not listening to what I'm telling you. I don't even vote for you. Either that or the person that I'm voting for, they're saying something to me that's clicking with me.
You know, MCAs have a much harder time in these matters than other political aspirants.
Right.
Because you are representing a group of people who by and large are related to you.
Indeed.
That is, of course, unless you are in a big metropolis or a city. But if you're talking about the bulk of our counties, which are rural geographical areas, it is either your clan members, your sub-tribe members,
right,
your extended relatives.
And they're interacting with you.
They know
on
you
a daily
full
basis.
well.
Yeah.
And the very thing that you're seeing is the flip side of probably what happened when you were voted in. Because of these associations, you had the numbers.
Yes.
So if they turn against you, it's wholesale.
It's all of us.
It's wholesale. I mean, their fed-upness is complete. Yes.
It's universal.
It's universal. And in essence, you are done for. A town setting would even be better for you.
Sure.
Because the dynamics are different.
Yeah.
Because you're unlikely to piss off one person and it remains just that person. The entire community is probably going to say, hold on, we're also seeing the effects of this thing. So you know what? You go. All of us have said, you go.
That is what happens with any rural community. Communities are close-knit. And you may not think so, but the thinking and expectation and anticipations are communal. So you do something that you think singularly pisses off one person.
You've got a whole community on your trail.
Yeah, that collectivist attitude. You know, town, we are more centrist and we're more individualistic. In the rural area, people don't think like that.
It doesn't work like that.
Yes.
It doesn't work like that.
Some may never even have met you, may never have interacted with you. But so long as word on the ground is that you are this sort of person, you are done for completely.
It's likely that aspirants or folks who've been shown the door probably saw in the rural areas, probably saw a tougher time than those who were not.
Yes, they
because
did.
of this thing that you're saying.
Yes, they did.
Because there is a face-à-face relationship between would-be leader and the community. We're seeing each other every day. Not this business.
That's why they let you in the first place, because you're one of them.
Because you're here amongst us.
Yes.
So there's no way you're going to joke around. You joke around, we boot you out. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now. And you'd be also surprised, or maybe not so, that folks in the community then have an intimate relationship with development and their leader. This thing was supposed to have been sorted out. This thing was supposed to have moved from step A to B. It has not happened. It is you we come to see, because guess what? We don't know anybody else. So you'll find us at your door every day. Come, Oga, you said you were going to do this thing. You've not done it. So we're going to give you the 5 years. 5 years have elapsed and it still has not happened. Thank you very much. Come and go. Come and be going. It's okay. Let's bring somebody else who we think is going to be able to do it. And then we just continue the cycle until we settle on the one who's able to do it right.
You know, one of the things that is actually interesting about our politics is those who aspire to be commentators and evaluators of our processes always talk about one or just two things determining the electoral process and the outcomes. That isn't entirely true. Because perception plays a role. Your popularity as a person plays a role. Some semblance of a track record of trying to help people plays a role. But the one thing that isn't mentioned adequately is the thorough dislike they may have for the incumbent. Because sometimes you're not voted in because they particularly like you, but they dislike the other person so much so, and everything related to them, that they would rather give it to somebody else other than the incumbent. If you look at our national politics, you will see that particular element that I've referred to last keeps playing out. Because you ask the question, is it that this person is completely popular or extremely popular, or is it that the other person who might be there is someone they do not particularly like?
Do you think that there is kind of like a spectator watching of what's going on? For those who may have clinched this coveted ticket at this point, seeing what would have happened to their competitors would say, you know what, I really need to get my ducks in a row. Do you think that is the thinking then they would adopt and say, well, I've got to get in here for the next if I'm going to get this position for the next 5 years, I must make sure that I do my job, because the possibility of me being booted out is quite high based on what I've just seen. Do you think that they actually have this kumbaya moment with themselves?
I think they do. They do. They actually do, sincerely, at least for the first year.
At least.
But then now what do you do? What do you do? You are now earning this, you're a big mesmua, and Siaya is a small place. You have to move to Kisumu.
And then shortly after, you have to move to
Nairobi.
Nairobi.
You come back, you're telling people, thank you very much, I became successful, I had to move now into better neighborhood, and now they're voting you out. So you're a criminal. In Siaya County, the woman rep seat was hotly contested. Dr. Christine Ombaka is the one who got the nomination certificate for this. But one of the contestants, Pamela Kello, is with us on the line. Pamela, good morning. Hello, Pamela.
Hello, morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
We're very well, thank you. How are you?
Fine, I like the discussion.
Asante sana. Pamela, you were among the contestants for the woman rep ticket in Siaya.
Yes.
How did you fare?
I came second with 21,500 votes.
And what did the winner get? 27,000?
27,000, yes.
How did you find this exercise? Do you feel it was free, fair, it was democratic?
It was very involving, it was good. Generally, it was good. Save for a few exceptions that I would like to raise.
Okay.
Yes.
What are those?
Number one, we have to admit that leadership is about the people. And voting is a people's right. And a number of voters were not allowed to vote, and therefore were not allowed to exercise their right to vote.
In which areas?
In Muga, in Bondo constituency, the kids were taken to Agusu and Nyangoma, which were not established and authorized voting centers and not tallying centers. And number two, there were rampant violence cases that scared some voters and they went back home without voting. One was in Nyangoma, one was in Gagra, in Rieda, and several others.
Did you report this to the appeal tribunal? Because we understand that the ODM appeals tribunal has been conducting its sittings and receiving complaints from the candidates. Have you reported this?
Exactly.
What have they said?
They listened to me. There was a hearing yesterday, and they should be making a decision and informing us in due course.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that, say, for these incidences that you're talking about, the incidences
Yes.
of some new polling stations cropping up in undesignated areas and such, do you think if it were not for this, you'd have won this seat, this ticket?
Exactly. And therefore, that was my prayer when I went to the appeals tribunal. That we nullify the nomination exercise and do it afresh.
Pamela, can I ask you a question? If you had, because what you're citing here is a problem with the process, right?
Yes.
Now, let's say peradventure you had won the ticket.
Yes.
The process would have been complained about by an opponent. Would you have raised these same issues had you been on the other side of the ticket?
Exactly. I love my party. ODM is a political and democratic movement and is the largest political movement party in Kenya. I love my party, and I would even if I won, I would still raise those issues so that we learn from the exercise.
You would have been all right if the entire exercise would have been nullified and say, let's get this process fixed and let's do it again. You would have been all right with the nullification of everything.
Exactly.
Okay.
If they didn't do it right, point out those areas where there are challenges, and we correct the challenges.
Okay.
What I'd like to ask you is this: in your mind, the issues that you are raising, you feel that if they were rectified, that they would give you the chance of actually winning, or are you saying that had they not gone the way they did, you would actually have won?
Definitely. Rarieda constituency is my stronghold. And in Rarieda, for example, time allowed for voting is 12 hours. In the whole of Rarieda, voters were allowed to vote for between 1 to 2 hours. And they were harassed to go back home because time was up. If they voted for 12 hours, then I would have emerged the winner.
Okay. So you're saying some people did not get an opportunity then to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
They were denied an opportunity to exercise their right of voting.
But this margin, though, Pamela, you got 20,513 votes.
21,000.
21,000. And
Yes.
the person who was declared winner got 27,500 votes. That's a huge margin of
Yes.
6,000 votes. Do you think 6,000 of your supporters were barred from voting? So you really think that at least 6,000 of your supporters were unable to vote?
Exactly. Not only in Rarieda, in Bondo as well. For example, kids were not taken to the polling stations at all. They were taken to unauthorized and established schools and later on taken by the police to police centers or the police station in Bondo. And therefore, the voters went back home. That is Bondo, that's not Rarieda.
No, that is true. Bondo and Rarieda are actually far apart. But let me ask this question. I mean, I am concerned because let me explain why I'm concerned. If indeed you are granted your wish and you go to another round of nominations, and the results are the same, will you be still looking at the loopholes that you're mentioning and bring them to a complaint again, or will you accept the results as being, well, done and dusted?
I would accept, by the way. I would accept. It's my party. I love my party. I'm not going to any other party, and I want the best for my party.
Okay.
Yes.
Pamela, thank you very much for speaking to us today, and we wish you all the best as your cases are being considered by the Appeals Tribunal.
Thank you for calling.
And also going forward with your political journey.
Thank you, yes.
Asante, have a good day.
Have a good day too.
Cheers.
This is one of many stories that we're going to hear of, contestants complaining one or the other. Parties have internal mechanisms of dealing with it. Pamela said as well, if the appeals tribunal listens to me and then they come out and say, we don't think there's a reason to repeat this exercise, she'll be okay.
Right.
She'll have raised the issues that she wanted to raise, but believes that she has had a good showing of 21,000 people coming out to vote for her.
It is a good showing.
That's
21,000, very many people, those.
Indeed.
Time for us to take this quick break and then we talk to others. We are also looking for the MP for Ainamoy, Sylvanus Maritim. We understand the UDA primaries did not go very well for him. And we want him to tell us what exactly happened on the ground and how he feels about that. Remember, Showmax for how much, City?
760 Kenyan shillings.
That's the starting point.
Yes.
Every month.
Not 1,000, 760.
Did you do the business, by the way?
That is more than he got.
Oh, wow.
Those MCAs who got 1 and 2 votes.
Imagine MCA got
definitely
1
more
vote.
than 1 or 2.
Elijah with 174.
Yeah, it is 760 is a significant amount.
Crime and Justice is showing on Showmax. Season 2 is out. Season 1 came out last year. Season 2 is out. Sarah Hassan starring as Detective McKenna. Alfred Munoz starring as Detective Silas. Makbul Muhammad starring as DCI Boss Kebo. And even season 2 sees the return of John Sibi Okumu, who's a powerful politician called Barasa. I wonder what happens, whether he's actually subjected to nominations or whether he comes in because he has lost in a nomination or he's trying to influence the outcome of a nomination. Crime and Justice showing on Showmax. Start subscribing today. 760 is the base subscription rate. Time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in McQueen?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, this resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Sylvanus Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoy.
Sylvanus Maritim, Ainamoy.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende.
Oh, wow.
Asante sana.
It is mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 16. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 15 today. Sunny conditions in Nakuru at 16, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Rain showers in Nyeri continue at 15, going to highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 24 in a cloudy Eldoret at 13. The rain continues in Mombasa this morning at 25, highs of 28, back down to lows of 25, and we'll see rain continuing in Malindi as well at 26, going to highs of 29 and lows of 25. Heavy thunderstorms continue in Kisumu at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 19. And we're looking at heavy thunderstorms now in Kakamega as well at 16, highs of 26, back down to lows of 16 today. Looking out into Kampala, light rain continues at 20, highs of 25, and it's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam. The rain is beckoning, and we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24. Clear conditions at 9 in Johannesburg, 21 will be the high, and we'll see highs of 32 in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 25. It's 23 and cloudy in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 32 down to lows of 22.
Welcome to SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
It's a mishmash of traffic wherever you look this morning, and we're looking at that whole circuit of industrial area, Jogger Road, then on to Landis, out towards the Kamkunji roundabout, and then Haile Selassie coming out towards Uhuru Highway, Bunyala Road, Lusaka Road, Lunga Likoni coming out towards the interchange on Mombasa Road. That whole area, a lot of traffic this morning, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that one because it can get quite sticky. Already is in many parts, and a little bit on the southern bypass as you come off that Likoni interchange, but you should be all right. Mombasa Road also doing the thing this morning, really tight, bumper to bumper, coming off the SGR heading out towards General Motors. It's going to slow you down some. And then getting onto North Airport Road, out towards that Embakasi turn-off, and North Airport Road as well, onto Outer Ring. That is really messy this morning. We're looking at Langata Road, also piling up, Gong Road, Uhuru Highway, out to the CBD, and then into Westlands. Looks a little bit better on the Thika Superhighway, but we're looking at that Mathare Junction, out then towards the Pangani Underpass, Kiambu Road, bumper to bumper. We're looking at 3 lanes now, coming past the DCI headquarters, and it's building up in Westlands. It's that morning, 7:30, and traffic hour starts on the nose of 7:30. We'll take a look in half an hour and see what it looks like. Help us out here, folks. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, and we'll share. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 24 minutes to 8.
Mornings done right. 94.4.
The country, various political parties, ODM with the exercise that was taking place. We've seen Nyanza MCAs. A majority of them have not gotten the nomination ticket to contest with the ODM ticket again. In other parts, UDA as well, those who have won, those who have lost. Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter beat a host of aspirants to win the UDA ticket during Tuesday's nominations. Keter's win surprised many as most local UDA officials campaigned against him. He had to wait for about 7 hours to be issued the interim certificate, even as he gets ready to defend his seat for a third term. He garnered 10,273 votes, as his close competitor, Bernard Kitur, managed 7,468 votes. Just before being announced the winner, Keter and his supporters had stormed the constituency tallying centre. In Naivasha, this is where the proper drama was. So the party of the election official, the returning officer, first goes ahead and declares one person as the candidate, as the winner, John Karanja Kihagi, and says that John Karanja Kihagi has beaten Jane Kihara, who is the current sitting MP, for the ticket. Jane Kihara appeals to the UDA Appeals Tribunal. The appeal is listened to, and then they are like, all right. So there are very many other areas where the results are not being contested. The areas where there was an issue, the results that had been omitted from the total tally, Milimani Secondary School and Maua Primary School, if we bring those two results in Milimani Secondary, John Kihagi got 16 votes, Jane Kihara got 23 votes. In Maua Primary, John Kihagi got 35 votes, Jane Kihara got 57 votes. Final tally declared now here by the tribunal of the UDA is that John Kihagi, who had initially been declared the winner, has 9,903 votes. Jane Kihara, who had lost, is now declared the winner with 9,904 votes. Difference, one. One vote.
Sometimes it's all that matters.
Imagine.
It's all that matters, right? At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to contest that.
It is one vote. This is those ones of 50% plus one. Applied.
That's the plus one applied.
We see the principle at work.
Yes,
the plus one now.
At work.
Yes.
You know what? I'm just thinking about all these folks who are taking these matters to the tribunal, right? And it's just coming up from some comments that we are seeing that, there are folks who know going to the tribunal that nothing is going to happen in terms of an overturning of the results, that they feel that what is more important here is that there is some agitation that is felt across board to say, look, that not just because I lost, but because we can see clearly that there's something flawed about the system. right? Whether it be that there were rigging claims or people did not come out to vote or that the opening hours were not as long as they should have been, etc., etc. That the agitation at this point, probably a lot more than we've seen in previous elections, that is what is important and should hold sway here. That people are getting to the point where they're bold enough to say, look, something has gone wrong. Not necessarily because I vote. I mean, we hear the folks who should not have been participating in this process and somehow were participating and said, you know what, guys, if we were able to participate, how much more for those who are actually on the inside and something went wrong? So should the powers that be, or those who are responsible for making sure that things work in a seamless manner, be paying attention to this agitation as opposed to the cases themselves? That there is something wrong here and that we should make sure that that is actually paid attention to and be fixed. The things that we say ought to happen, that voting should occur for 12 hours and then everybody should have access to this. Are we making sure that that process is unfettered? Are we making sure that that is happening? Are we making sure that, we're not going to have stuffed ballot, but already pre-filled ballots and that they can be found anywhere in a community area? So I'm looking at the agitation here, and those who are the custodians, the vanguards of this process, are they paying attention to what's coming out here? It cannot just be that it is sore losers who are coming out and saying the process is flawed. Across board, across the country, that everywhere you look, somebody's complaining about a particular thing. I think that is what needs to be paid attention to. I think there's a bigger cry here beyond I lost. There's a bigger message beyond I didn't get the ticket and I ought to have, And I think that that is really what is coming out here. It probably hasn't come out in this manner before. And that's what ought to be paid attention to.
There's also, remember our political processes, given what they are, and given the reputation that our politicians has lumped onto that process with their deeds and misdeeds. What do you think the ordinary voter enters this particular field when it comes to expressing their wish through a voting process, either in nomination or an election? Do they enter with great trust, or do they enter with great anticipation and positivity for their particular candidate?
Great trust in whom?
In the process?
In the process, okay.
Yes, in the process. Not in individuals, because individuals have already made their choices as to who they want to support. So it's in the process. Now, the example they probably draw from is the example that is set at the national level. What have we seen happening at the national level whenever we've had an election dispute? Election results are disputed.
Right.
People go to court, people go to the Supreme Court, there's a falling out.
The courts are very busy. I mean, I think we still have a few cases that have still been
electoral cycle has gone through, and those things haven't been sorted out.
Exactly.
But that's why you have a Chief Justice who comes and says, no. We are going to set up special courts that are going to deal with these matters over this period of time, specifically understanding the burden that lies with them. Now, when we then have a situation where people bring forth their complaints, and they should, the mechanisms that exist for resolution of these issues comes with an understanding that these things will arise. So when they arise, the question is, do they trust these processes? Or will the mistrust be carried on to mistrusting even the very process that these political parties have?
I've always said we have such serious bad manners in our politics that the contestants always start from the point of it's I win or I win.
Yeah.
So even when you're going to the tribunal, so that you're declared the winner. If you're not declared the winner, then you also feel, no, I'm going now to the political parties dispute tribunal so that I'm declared the winner. It's I win or I win. Sitting back and saying, okay, I've seen the outcome of this. I'm willing to accept the will of the people. It becomes a bit tough. Somebody else who also participated in the primaries under UDA is Senator Isaac Maura, who's with us on the line. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
I'm fine, I'm well.
We're well as well, and thank you very much for speaking to us. We are talking about the party primaries and what we are seeing as the outcome from all political parties. We know that you're one of the people who participated in the primary and the result went as it went. Where do you lie now?
No, I decided to let go because I realized this whole issue must come to an end. Obviously, the process was not perfect. I have 14 grounds, for example, that I feel things didn't go right. Eric, you'll know that I actually sponsored the party primaries bill, and we have discussed it with you the last time I was on the show.
Yep.
And the whole aim is because I have experienced this before under Jubilee and during the Kasarani debacle, the Men in Black thing, people remember that. And now this one. To be honest and to be very sincere, political parties do not really have the capacity to conduct plebiscites akin to the IEBC as to occasion who is a winner or loser in this so-called party primaries. Unfortunately, we decide to do the universal suffrage, and if you look, for example, at Ruiru, the turnout was actually 3%. Now, do you want to say that 3% represents the people? So parties generally don't have that capacity.
Was it 3% of registered voters or 3% of UDA members?
3% of registered voters.
And how many of them are UDA members?
The UDA membership is not really something you can go by because that was discarded. The IBC register was the one that was being used in 2017, and that also jeopardized the participation of the young people who have registered since then. So there are many people who were not in the voter register. So what I'm trying to say in short is that really I don't think there's any single political party that has got the infrastructure to occasion a proper election, in the nomination. So that's something we need to agree. And in my bill, I had actually proposed that in the 5th year, any parliamentary political party, there should be a special fund to help them do so. Because remember, for example, UDA, it's in the public domain. My party say that we'll use 500 million to do this exercise. Yet IBC will do a similar exercise with 40 billion. So you can see that's a drop in the ocean. You see, so basically, we need to strengthen, party nominations, party primaries. We need to have them brought under the ambit of the law, and that's what I was achieving through my bill. So that then you also determine things like which register to be used, because we always revert back to the IBC register based on the ruling of Justice Odunga. Who are the officials? How do you move forward? So yes, there's a process going on, and interestingly, in politics, there's going to be a winner and a loser.
Senator, can I ask you a question, if I may? Actually, there are two questions. One, did I hear you to say that there were members of UDA, of the youthful variety, who actually turned up to vote but couldn't vote because their names were not in the register?
Yes, please. Yeah, that's for sure. And that cuts across because the register that obtained was not the UDA membership register because the threshold was very low. For example, in Ruiru, we had registered about 17,000 people. I was once spearheading the process. So can you imagine 17,000 people against a voter, register of 170?
Then let me ask the question. Do you have any idea as to how often the IEBC register is updated?
It is a continuous process. But then the new register for 2022 will only be available for 60 days to the general election. So you're talking about by 9th of June. So anything in between there, you cannot really verify. You can only resort.
So essentially the register is historical, more than current.
Yeah, it's historical. It's historical.
Senator, I mean, you talk about, strengthening parties. So one of the ways to go about this is to strengthen parties, then to allow them to have all they need when it comes to nominations, these primaries, right? In terms of information, because I'm looking at something as basic as a register. And to be able to have a situation why we're asking questions, when we're having to ask questions after the fact is a bit troubling to me. That to say that a register, which is something that should be quite apparent, that we're going to either use the IEBC register or we're going to use the party register. That's something that going into these nominations, everybody should be on the same page in terms of what we are going to do. What do you think needs to change for some of the mundane things that probably folks are not really thinking about? Because, and then I dare say that it was something that nobody really paid any attention to, but that is something that is such a strong bone of contention today. That across board, it doesn't matter what party we're talking about, everybody's already complaining that should we have used the IEBC register or should we have used the party register? So for something that would look as though it's too small in terms of details, seems to be a really big issue. Now, it looks to me like it's an issue of information that should have been shared and debated on well in advance of these primaries. So how do you deal with some of these issues which seems to have just been ignored as opposed to something that ought to be in the law?
Yeah, exactly. From just where you left the law, we need a party primaries law. We need a bill that really regulates party primaries. And that's what I was trying to achieve before I was thrown out of the Senate. And so therefore, because those things, they sound like it's just a suggestion in a conversation, but it's actually very basic, very germane in terms of, for example, when you have a register, then you determine who actually votes. In the process, there was a directive that because the register does not suffice, then anybody with an ID and a voter's card can vote. Now, that is very, very interesting because even you don't even remember the last time you had a voter's register, a voter's card. It's not a requirement under the law for you to appear, before your polling, presiding officer to vote. I mean, so I think what I'm trying to say in short, we don't have basic parameters for a nomination exercise.
Right.
And that then is required to be done in law. And right now, as we speak, then there are so many glaring anomalies. But if you are to strictly follow the Elections Act as a basis for party nominations, then you would nullify the whole exercise.
But what stopped Senator, what stopped the party leadership from ensuring that they have an updated register?
Because if you depend on the IBC register, then it's beyond your control, because of the only Mr. Makweli, the party register would disenfranchise so many supporters who never go to register, because the nature of our political parties is that they get born and become big at least a year or less before elections. So, for example, UDA is just a big political party, but very young. You see the contradiction in there.
Yep.
A very big political party is the biggest political party based on the surveys that have been done. But it's very young. It's actually a year or less old, you see. So to have that capacity to conduct this exercise becomes a very Herculean task. You could say the same of ODM. You could say the same of the other, significant political parties within our political landscape. So you need to continuously invest, and deliberately so, starting with the law, then you come to resources to enable political parties to do this exercise. Now, what has happened of late is that then opinion polls are also counting, and that is a very good way forward, because it is the perfection in terms of, as long as they are credible, that those opinion polls also help so that you determine. And then, of course, the issue of consensus. So for me, as Isaac Maura, I decided to move forward and to move on for the interest of the party, because the more people keep on engaging, it becomes fractious, it becomes very acrimonious, and then you never have an insight. As we speak, in my own constituency in Roiro, elections never quite happen. You had polling stations opening at 3, closing at 3, at 6. A whole ward did not vote. Now we're having a repeat in one of the polling centers. I mean, there were so many irregularities around this election. Marked ballot papers, some codes that would show who has been voted for. I have 14 good grounds for that, but then
so you've decided to let go.
Move forward.
Have you had a conversation? Have you had a conversation with your party leader? Maybe are you joining? What we've seen the trend now is joining the presidential campaign.
I think, Jeff, that's not a fair question. I cannot disclose on national radio. My conversation with my party leader, I mean, it's only fair because that is private too.
No, for your supporters. What are you telling your supporters? So, yes, I am not going to contest what we were running for. So, what am I bringing to you as my supporters?
And this is my take. Let us remain in the party. Because one of the things that happens after party nominations is that the party's popularity goes down and people move on, others go. I have been told to go independent, but honestly, that was not what I planned to do. Because honestly, I believed I was going to win. I'm the founder of UD. I've worked very hard. I've had to pay the price for this whole issue. I was thrown out of the Senate. I was done something that I've spoken about before. But I chose to stay the party, despite all of those things. I chose to agree that there are no perfect processes, so that we can move forward and ensure that we have the Deputy President William Ruto as the fifth President of the Republic of Kenya. And I can see even in today's papers he's still leading in the opinion polls. So personally, that's the route that I've chosen.
Okay.
And I'm not going to backtrack, because at some point we just have to agree that we have to have a way out. If then I was to go before the tribunal with the evidence that I have, believe you me, if you were to do it, I would win this election. If I was to go before the tribunal with evidence that I have, it will be nullified, because it was a real sham on that regard. We must also agree we cannot keep on having contestations here and there. In fact, in Kikuyu, and allow me to say it in Kikuyu, I mean, somebody may have understood. You cannot keep on contesting and what have you. So you have to move forward, and I hope that it's the best interest of the party. It's not a very decision to make, by the way, Jeff. It's been a very painful process. And also, allow me to say, because of the people that I represent, because for me, this was not just an election for the sake of just having, Maura being member of parliament. It was a question of trying to break the glass ceiling so that people who are like myself see that even they too have to be leaders, and that they can not just to be nominated, for example.
They can be elected directly
by the people. But then, if then this has not succeeded, we keep on trying, because many who have gone before us have actually done it, severally. I am very excited I'm very encouraged by the fact that people, the greatest of leaders have actually tried before they ever made it.
Okay.
So personally, that's what I would want to say. I may not be happy with what happened, but I really also don't want us to continue belaboring the point.
That's a good way to go, Senator, and we thank you very much for speaking to us. Like you said, there's still the journey continues, the journey for persons with disabilities to also participate directly in an election, to get elected directly, is a journey that others before you, like you've said, and you have started, but it must continue. Asante for speaking to us, and all the best.
Maybe if I know what is to say this. I really want to say that I want to thank the people of Ruiru. I know many of them are disenfranchised because of what really happened. And I want to end by this quote. In life, some people's journeys to stardom and excellence may be more difficult than others, especially for pioneers. They have to pay the price in every step of the way in order to set parameters by creating pathways for those who come after them. If this is your portion, keep pushing, keep fighting. You'll be there someday, and if not, those who come after you will have it in an easier way. A luta continua. Thanks very much.
Asante sana, Isaac. Good quote to end that call on. I mean, it's not just about him as an individual, but representing a movement,
right?
An ideal, and just saying, okay, yes, okay, let's just move on from this point. He's one of the very few people who are accepting to move on. Others are being told, mheshimiwa, watu wako wametokea hiyo siku, wewe enda independent.
You see, this level of honesty is what is perhaps necessary in our politics, where somebody speaks to the truth, not because he's against or for his party. They're only merely saying what happened. This was the voter turnout. This is what happened. This is when people were allowed to start voting. And you see, it's beginning to resonate with what the lady who had been aspiring to be...
What Pamela told us.
Exactly. So, voter suppression, unfortunately, has to enter... That topic has to enter the discussion.
Yeah.
So, were we seeing voter suppression? Because if you know that stations are supposed to open at, say, 9 in the morning and they open at 3, what exactly do you think is...
It's voter suppression. It's just the same. Yeah, it's just the same thing we said. Consensus. How do you define consensus? In this case, how do you define the voter suppression? If you don't allow folks, essentially, don't open the polls until 6 hours after they actually have opened, is voter suppression.
What I found particularly interesting, what Pamela was saying, there is a known polling station, and you take the kids to a station that doesn't exist in reality. So who do you think is going to go there to vote?
And then you say, imefunguliwa.
Imefunguliwa. And then thereafter, you take the kids back to the police station and you claim, yes, now surely.
Meanwhile, where you are on the map geographically, totally different.
People understand they have a time lag of 12 hours to vote. You give people 2 hours to vote. What do you think is going to happen?
In a different geographical location.
It doesn't matter how you look at it.
Introduction of chaos. So, we were talking about Siaya. Siaya is one of those counties where Colgate has been working in the last 4 years. Kisumu is the other one, Kakamega, Migori, Kwale, Kitui, and Homa Bay. In the last 4 years, they have benefited approximately 120,000 people because they have sunk 90 wells in 7 counties. And these are sunk in schools. And then the entire community is allowed to come and fetch water from this particular well or borehole that's in a certain school. And they want to do more.
Indeed. Children all around the country rely on water from unsafe sources. Colgate is asking you to help to change this. Just a little water can make a big difference. For every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you help us build 30 more water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 Kenyans. Give a helping hand, shop at your nearest Naivas or online, and find out how you can help to make it safer for children to drink water.
Indeed. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Muga. The national government has initiated various water projects, increasing the national water coverage from 60% in 2013 to 70% in 2022 as the country is grappling with non-revenue water and climate change challenges. Acting Devolution Cabinet Secretary Gina Malo said Kenya, which is a water-scarce nation, could not account for 50% of the water produced. He assured that the government is committed to establishing water projects to ensure the fulfillment of the rights to access to safe and clean water by all citizens as envisioned in Vision 2030. The CS noted that water is a key factor in realizing the Big Four agenda, including food security, health, housing and manufacturing. Now, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai says an estimated 2,000 police officers aren't fit to carry out police work. Mutyambai spoke during a meeting with bishops and senior clergy of the SK Church, said mental health issues among the police remain a serious concern. He said recruitment of police officers will be very strict going forward so that they can detect those with mental issues early enough. Mutyambai said they have mechanisms in place to address the issue, adding that the medical board will be continuously assessing officers. Now, Kenya has over the last decade been able to reduce the burden of malaria by at least 50% from a prevalence rate of 11% in 2010 to 6% in 2020. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said that his achievement was a result of concerted and sustained effort and collaboration between the Ministry of Health, the county government, local communities, development partners in health and the global malaria community. Kagwe said that last year, the government provided 1.2 billion shillings for the procurement of malaria diagnosis and treatment commodities. Tomato's politics in Polycarp Igathe intensified popularization tours of the city after he announced publicly that he is vying for the Nairobi's governor's race. Igathe started with an impromptu visit to City Market in the Central Business District, where he engaged traders and border operators before he headed to Kayole for his first campaign rally and launch of his gubernatorial bid. He was accompanied by Nairobi MCAs led by Majority Leader Abdi Guyo and Kamkunji MP Yusuf Hassan. The Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics has embarked on revising and reviewing their data collection and collation methods to be in line with latest international standards. This follows the completion of a report by International Monetary Fund that urges KNBS to develop a clear, detailed explanations of the data sources, methods and calculations used to produce the revised 2009 to 2019 national accounts and incorporate these into a revision report. Last year, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics rebased the Kenyan economy to capture new sectors whose output has grown in recent years. The new activities were included into the computation of the country gross domestic product. This was the seventh time Kenya's economy has undergone rebasing. According to the report, the revision and rebasing national accounts resulted to an increase in the size of GDP, increase in per capita income and changes in production structure and revised GDP growth rates. Now, a Ukrainian Marine commander in Mariupol has made what he described as his troops' last address to the world as they try to resist overwhelming Russian forces in the city. Major Saiv Volina said they were outnumbered and running out of supplies. A Russian deadline for the surrender of Ukrainian forces has passed with no sign that the troops have complied. The last holdouts are sheltering in the city's huge Azovstal steel plant, reportedly with 1,000 civilians. Kyiv said there was a tentative deal to rescue some civilians from the city. The city's mayor, Vady Boychenko, said he had hoped to send 90 buses to evacuate about 6,000 people. He said around 100,000 people are trapped in Mariupol. And the Russian Defense Ministry has released a video of what it says is a successful launch of a nuclear-capable missile. The new Sarmat Super Heavy Intercontinental Ballistic Missile was launched from the Plesek spaceport in the northwestern region and landed in the other side of Russia in the far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula. President Putin said it was food for thought for those who try to threaten Russia. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, Mombasa Road is doing a number on folks this morning, and we're looking at it coming all the way then from the SGR out towards General Motors. Really, really slow inbound traffic. Today, we're also looking at some outbound action as well. So we're not looking at smiley faces on Mombasa Road. We're also looking at some traffic on the southern bypass today. It's going to take some time to get out of that. So it looks really sticky from what we see right now. Industrial area is also quite packed. We're looking at Jogo Road, Lunga Lunga, Likoni, Lusaka, that whole square. Mess. Langata Road also bumper to bumper as you get to the Timor roundabout, and it's feeding off onto Raila Odinga Way. Uhuru Highway, if you can stay away from Uhuru Highway, you will find a way into the city. I mean, because right now it's totally crazy. We're also looking at Gong Road, which is a mess. The Thika Superhighway, quite crazy, bumper to bumper. And I mean the real bumper to bumper, not that other one. Kiambu Road also doing its thing. Limuru Road, bumper to bumper as well, and in both directions. And coming out of Westlands, quite crazy. Ring Road Westlands taking on some action, going on towards towards Wangari Maathai Way today. So everybody's way is not moving. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch this morning. Let us know if you find a good route. Tell us what's happening in your neck of the woods. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation
Good morning
Room,
to you.
the
7
only
minutes
way
after
to
8.
start your
Welcome
day.
to Kenya's biggest conversation if you're just joining us, including those who are tuning in now on KTN Home. It's Eric. Ndu is back and CT.
Indeed.
Did you say good morning to Ndu?
I did.
Did you say good morning to me?
Yes.
Yes. You want to say it again?
And welcome back.
You want to wish
Now
me a
that
good
you're
morning?
back, there's traffic.
Karibu
Mombasa Road
welcome.
is actually Mombasa Road has been smooth.
What are you trying to say?
I don't know.
I think what he's trying to say that before you actually came back, it wasn't raining.
I brought the rain. Good tidings.
It's actually raining for sure. You know, there's not this rain which is which is
Jokes.
actually in the realm of ifs and buts. Real rain.
It's not for jokes.
See, it's my name. Ifoma is my middle name. Ifoma, good things. I come with good and beautiful
Ifoma.
things. Ifoma.
All right.
Ifoma is good things.
Okay, Ifoma. Shall we Ifoma proverb?
Okay. Do you have an Ifoma proverb?
I have an Ifoma proverb.
Okay.
Breed a serpent, and he will strike you when you are in deep slumber. I find these proverbs interesting in that a proverb such as this one, there's never a she in it, it is he.
These people who go and try to kiss snakes. Only one gender has some silly things happening. Who sent you?
Okay.
Okay. So it didn't have to have so much violence. I mean, City was just saying. I mean,
did I also just not say? I didn't say. I just said.
You're just saying. Sikobaya.
Yes.
Just saying. I mean, just making an observation.
Yeah, okay.
We were going to have the Secretary General of Wiper Democratic Movement, Shakil Abdallah, with us in the studio this hour. We understand that she's been bereaved now and she's had to travel to be with her family, and we wish the family all the best, and a message of condolences to the family of Shakil Abdallah. So we will continue the conversations. The conversation that we're to have with the Wiper Secretary General is with regards to Kalonzo and Kalonzo's position and Wiper's position also in the Azimio One Kenya Alliance. I've said it in full.
Well
Azimio la Umoja - One Kenya Alliance,
the
party. Yeah, we will still have this conversation because the Azimio is not going anywhere. It is one Kenya, and we're in this Kenya. So when she's back, we'll invite her into the studio. We're looking at what also is happening around the country, and this is on party primaries. Party primaries have been dominating the news cycle for the last 2 weeks, and as they come to a conclusion, we are now seeing the results of them. In DP Ruto's camp, the headline today in the Standard is "Old is Gold for Raila," as Ruto goes for new. Primaries end as voters renew mandates of close associates of Azimio leader Raila Odinga, preferring tried and tested hands to work with him. But in the ODA nominations, they've picked fresh faces, meaning that DP Ruto will have to work with a relatively young team. With around 3 months to the August 9th election, there's a new generation of leaders preparing to lead UDA campaigns in the Rift Valley. They include 24-year-old Lynette Toto, who floored experienced politicians to clinch the party ticket for Bomet woman rep. Toto might be a political novice, but there is no doubt that she'll design an aggressive campaign. With her candidature, she brings on board the youth vote considered crucial in the polls. Francis Sigei, a career civil servant who served in the KANU regime and later as a Kenyan envoy in Nigeria, is another hopeful expected to inject new blood into UDA politics. After a false start in 2007, Sigei had to wait 20 years to capture a party ticket to contest the Sotik parliamentary seat. Other political newcomers in Bomet County include lawyer Hilary Sigei, who has floored Senator Christopher Langat, nominated MP Wilson Sosion in the UDA primaries. Another new generation politician is 31-year-old John Methu. He beat former cabinet secretary and incumbent Senator Mwangi Githiomi and former local government assistant minister Gashara Mushiri, as well as lawyer John Kinyanjui, to win the UDA ticket for Nyandarua senator. The race will be the first general election Dr. Eric Mutai takes part in. He'll fly the UDA flag in Kericho as the governor candidate. It appears he's been learning from the mistakes of others. So as we look at all this in various places, Baringo, they have nominated Benjamin Cheboy as the UDA flag bearer for governor, William Cheptumo as the flag bearer for senator, Kericho, Dr. Eric Mutai as governor candidate, Aaron Cheruiyot as the senator nominee, Bomet, Hilary Barchok as the governor nominee, and Hilary Sigei as the senator nominee. In ODM primaries, we are seeing Professor Tomo Jenda is the new senator nominee for Kisumu County. In Siaya, Oburu Oginga, senator nominee for ODM. James Orengo, governor nominee. In Homa Bay, Gladys Wanga, governor nominee. Moses Kojwang still retains that nomination for Senate. Migori, Ochilo Ayako as a governor nominee. Eddie Okech, senator nominee. New faces is, as the headline in the Standard is saying, if you look at the Raila Odinga stronghold, people who've been working with him are still winning the tickets. If you look at the Ruto strongholds of Rift Valley, there are new faces have come in. Voters have basically picked new faces. We have seen numerous complaints. We've just been talking to people who felt that the nomination exercise was not going according to plan. Isaac Maura saying, there are very many issues. I had 13 grounds for complaining, but I've decided, you know what, it's okay. I will support the party. I will support the candidate. I will campaign for the party in my region. Pamela was telling us about Siaya. She has taken her case before the ODM appeals tribunal. She's awaiting the outcome, but she says, either way, which way it goes, I will support my party. Now, is this a demonstration of democracy? that we are seeing in the parties? Is it this particular time we are seeing various parties using various means of issuing nomination certificates? Consensus, delegate, direct ballot, all those.
When we had fewer parties in the country, it was easy to point fingers and say it is these parties and the leader or their leaders when it came to that. All those who are closely associated with the supreme leader of the party. But now we have many more parties, and I'm sure if we went to the coast and asked some of the smaller parties who, if only they've had their nominations, I'm sure we would have similar stories on a smaller scale, but we'd have them nonetheless. So it isn't a question of which political party in my mind. It tells you about how we have consumed our politics and how it is we put it into practice. Because these areas differ, and you are seeing the same thing. Now, the people who seem to have circumvented it are people who are choosing different methods of going about this process of nomination. They are the ones who have figured this one, to sidestep this one, you perhaps need to look at this thing differently. But then there's also a key component in our politics. We've mentioned it on many occasions here, and that is the process of negotiations. That even within, you see, most people who look at our elections assume, say for instance, that at the county level of governor, that people just elect. Oh, no. The communities in every county want to have a say. It's a clan, it's a tribe, it's a community. Call it what you will. It's a sub-county. So how do you balance the interests of all these people? And the beauty of a county position is you can. And that's why you'll find when people now assemble themselves to present themselves to electorate, they come with a package. So-and-so governor, so-and-so deputy, so-and-so speaker, so-and-so women rep, so-and-so this and the other and this and the other.
Right.
And those numbers are supposed to represent the various communities within that particular county, with the understanding that next time, we will be able to move here, do this, do the other. When it comes to elections of members of parliament, that's a local affair. MCAs, it's even more localized.
If you take a quick pick, just do a quick selection in terms of what's happening around the country. Do we have significantly more agitation at this level of the process in 2022 than was previously, right? And then if you were able to go across, because if we're asking the question to say that, have things been fair? Have things been transparent? Have things been democratic at this party nomination level, at this stage, right? You're going to have to ask the question that has the agitation been across the country in severe measure, so much so that folks have to sit up and take notice?
And what do you mean by agitation?
I mean, okay, so are there enough people complaining that there was rigging? Are there enough people complaining that there was voter suppression? Are there enough people complaining that things did not go in the way they ought to have gone with the vanguards of the process of the system, IEBC, the party, etc., etc.? Is there enough complaining happening? And does it cloud out those who probably then did make a decision with integrity? You've just told us about people who, chalked out people who've been there for the longest time, who would be seen to be powerful leaders or rulers. They've been removed, and a younger, fresher face has come in. It could very well be the voice of the people, but then this is all clouded by these claims of rigging, claims of voter suppression, and it could actually be that communities are making different decisions.
Yes.
So across board, are we seeing that there is satisfaction, or are we seeing that those who've lost out cannot actually come to terms with the fact that they've actually been removed by their communities and they don't want them to be there? The people have decided.
There's this isn't a tale of two cities. This is a tale of 47 cities plus and their relatives. You know why I say this? What you say is absolutely spot on and correct. But the clincher and the final determination of the thought process that you've initiated comes with an election. Because there are people who will opt to go independent. When they do, if indeed, as they say, they were popular, you will be able to determine whether the population who are voting for them agree with them. Because the results that's the clincher. That's what tells you what the people are thinking. As of now, when you talk about party politics and its party nomination, the dominating force will be the party and how it wants the business run, the party. But when you then throw to the vagaries of national politics, where people are allowed to compete in different parties, then you have a much clearer idea of who the people like and whom they prefer.
But you know what I'm seeing?
Yes.
I am seeing a great market improvement in the way party primaries are being held this year. The outcome of the party primaries, the agitation, as you're calling it, after the results are announced, I'm seeing a significant improvement. Previously, what we would see is those party primaries would be, number one, either chaotic or people don't even know that there's a nomination. There's a nomination going on. You know, people don't know whether we are having this nomination today or tomorrow. It happens in a single day, and everybody is just a chaotic day. This time, there was more time to organize the party primaries. The party primaries were staggered, which was a very good thing for the parties themselves and everybody who knows. For example, Migori held their primaries earlier last week. Kisumu was holding its primaries. Now, tomorrow is when Nairobi will be holding the primary. There is better organization at party level and also at supporter level. People know when we are participating in our primaries. People know what we are expected to do. There's a bit more awareness of what's expected to be done. There's a bit more awareness of the dispute resolution mechanism. So if you have a dispute after the result has been declared, this is how you lodge your dispute. This is a party structure within how you lodge the dispute. The party appeals tribunals have more members, are able to go across the country. They have more time to sit, to listen, to determine. There's greater democracy, in my opinion, this year than we've seen previously in political party primaries.
You're absolutely right, sir. It is. Everything you said is absolutely true, completely. And I will not add to it, except...
Yako ni machache.
Just one or two things.
You see, the Political Parties Act of 2011 ushered in very many wonderful things. And the amendments that we've seen and the additions, and which also come with subtractions, have also assisted. We are seeing greater and greater clarity into our political processes than we've seen in the past. That is absolutely true. Because even when people complain, we are clear about structures within which you can complain and how you can cascade it, how you can escalate it, we can see. Now, this forms part of giving the electorate the information, which is the tool they need when they're participating in these processes. And the more these things are discussed and the more issues come out, the more we are educated. Because with every complaint, there's a back and forth and you get to learn.
Right.
You understand what they're complaining about and you understand how the outcome or the final outcome is arrived at. It's all part of the education, which means we're on to a good thing. Yes.
I mean, for sure. I think that people are interrogating the system a lot more than they would have just 5 short years ago. That people then are asking questions in a manner in which they would not have before. And that you know that there's somewhere that you can take your complaint to. And the people at the end of the day who are making the decision when it comes to the vote then also know that it's possible that this thing has gone through the ringers and then you've been given something that is, clean that you should deal with.
Legitimate.
Absolutely legitimate. City, you mentioned something and said we wouldn't really know what the decision would be until people go to the vote. But here is it. Here the thing is that if you had a system that was flawed, if you had a process that was flawed, and even if it went into the tribunal and whatever, the person that you have been given is the person that you have been given. You're not really going to be able to do anything about that. So how do you make a decision against that? If you're served a buffet, right, you can't say, and you're hungry, you're going to eat what's on the buffet. You're going to deliver the vote based on what you've been offered, which is why there is the insistence on the integrity of the process today, to say that all stops ought to have been pulled to make sure that the person who is being delivered, whether they're going to then go and duke it out in front with people from other parties who have also gotten that nomination, that you want to be sure that the process was clean and clear and filled with, and, ticked all the boxes in terms of integrity. Because once you're delivered the individual, that's what you have. Are you then going to do a protest vote and vote for the other person? It's as good as what you have. You get what you get. So that's why there is the insistence on this process beforehand that let's pull all the stops and make sure that you have the person who was rightly chosen. Because after that, you essentially then make a choice on what you have. You're not going to go into the kitchen and start cooking things again. It's what's being delivered. It's what's being served. You're going to make a choice based on that. So would we then have people making a decision at the ballot because that's what has been offered to them?
I think it's a bit different. You see, previously, again, if we just look at history, we had complaints of people buying nomination certificates at the party headquarters. The election board of the parties were just clearance houses for corruption. You come in here, the highest bidder is the one that gets the legitimate certificate. Everybody else gets a certificate. Okay? And then they go and find out, oh, mine wasn't. This particular time, you're not hearing people actually complaining about the certificate that's been issued, whether it's legitimate or not. The process is clear at the ballot. When a winner is declared at the ballot, everybody knows, though, this is a person who's been declared, and the people who want to go and complain, they know this is where we're going to complain. And the process is, if it's being repeated or if it's consensus taking place, people will complain about either the consensus, feeling that the consensus was not consensus. But there's no issue of now people buying nomination certificates. So the person who will end up on August 9th representing this particular party will by and large have the support of the membership of the party on the ground, by and large. The person who comes representing Jubilee here, ODM there, Wiper there, the people will be behind them. This is the person who got the certificate.
It would have been a result of some proper process,
some fair process,
right?
A process
some level
that is generally accepted.
Yes,
yeah.
Some level of fairness. We are seeing incidences of complaints, of course, and people saying, all right, so forget about this process, I'm going independent. That we are seeing, but I think it's reduced if we compare to previous incidences. Now, what else has changed? I think what is also emerging is now we are able to clearly see whether parties have the wherewithal to conduct elections. And just like Senator Isaac Maura was telling us, we are seeing that parties don't have the logistical capacity to actually run nominations countrywide. You call yourself a national political party. When you're doing nominations, you're basically mirroring what IEBC will be doing in August. Do you have the capacity to run a national nomination exercise? Whether you stagger it within 4 weeks or whether you do it in a single day, do you have that capacity? Do you have the capacity to have logistics of delivering ballots, of having agents, of having returning officers, of counting, of declaring winner, of monitoring and tracking the voting process? Political parties don't have that capacity, and this is clear.
And that is also clear that it's an issue and it's a bone of contention that folks are picking up on right now. And it's in these details that the devil lies, right? That it's just little sticking points that would seem as though they're insignificant that come out to be the issue. IEBC register versus party register, something that you think, all right, we'll figure it out as we go along, becomes the bone of contention for people after the fact, right? There are people in some part of the country that did not get ballot boxes, moved a polling station from one place to another, things that you would think, all right, we can ignore that. But can you really ignore that? So then, and this is what I think, that this is actually, in terms of politics and governance, this is a beautiful thing that's happening right now, because then what it does is that it sheds light on things that must actually be focused on the next time around and say, you know what, guys? Look at the issues that brought us problems. Even as much as we may not be able to cover everything because, all right, it's a maturing democracy and we're still getting things sorted out. Look at the things that caused issues before. In the time, because this is an ongoing process, parties still exist well after an election. Parties are still working on their processes. Parties are still working on how they operate and exist. These are things that you now put in place and say, okay, can we continue this engagement with the law? Can we continue this engagement and say, in the next event, we will make sure that 1, 2, 3 are ticked off so that we do not have this issue again. And I think what is presented here is a beautiful opportunity to say, okay, here are the issues that we have problems with. Let us start to fix them.
Yeah.
As parties, but also as entities that are part of a larger body.
Parties are not national organs. This has been exposed. So we're seeing, UDA, for example, will say we have over 6,000 people who will be contesting under UDA ticket around the country. Fine. But you're not holding nomination exercises using universal suffrage across the country. That means that some areas where you knew definitely that you will not be able, you don't have many party members who will come out. So there's no point of spending money conducting an exercise on the ground in some areas because they're not going to come out. So are you really a national party? If you cannot conduct a nomination exercise in Hola the same way you're conducting it in Bureti, can you say that you are a national party?
And for some people, that wouldn't even come up in discussion, because if you want to look at other, let's call them mature democracies, it doesn't matter whether you have a city of 20 million people or one town, sleepy town somewhere that has 500 people. You will have a polling station open. The times will be the same. It will be standard across board, and people will wait until the 500th person has voted. It doesn't matter. You can't say, we can't really pay attention to this place because there are no people there. They're going to do it.
Mature democracies have something that gives them a huge advantage when we have such discussions. In that they've had time to go through these processes that we're talking about. And so that even the discussions are rarely about the basics. You see, when you talk about our politics and we talk about people who want to present themselves to the electorate, the discussions around basic fundamental things that ought to be in place.
Like an IEBC register and a party register for crying out loud.
Yes. That's a discussion.
Yeah.
Whether there is clean drinking water, whether the health facilities have whatever it is that is required for them to actually become a health facility. These are still the heart of what we're discussing. 13 counties where people are facing starvation, and now people are going to be facing floods. Those are the things we talk about on a daily basis. So when you throw in an election into the mix, you're asking people now to take a portion of their mind to allocate it to rent seeking and food seeking, to now electing this person who again they want to connect with helping their lives become better. It's a different discussion. It's a very different discussion. And in the West, there are things you take for granted. You can't go to the polling station. In the US, you post your vote.
Yes, you do.
Options are provided. Here, we still hear of cases where somebody votes 5 times and you're asking, how does one individual vote?
Okay, let's take a break. 28 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on SpiceFM, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on KTN Home, reminding you about Showmax. How much per month, City?
760 Kenya shillings.
Shilling mia saba.
Saba stini. Okay, let's start with thou. Okay? Remove 240.
Ukitoa thou unapewa change ya 240.
Unapewa change ya 240, inatosha Uber, kama ni pikipiki, or Uber chap, or bus.
Ama njugu, ukiwatch Showmax, unakula njugu.
Na soda.
Yeah, 240.
Na 240, njugu na soda, and there's even fair to go back home.
Can't even have a friend.
Hata unaweza nunua pizza.
Yes.
Wow.
Pizza, ukitaka.
Have a
and
friend.
you sit back and watch Crime and Justice Season 2. That's out and showing now on Showmax. Let's take this quick break. We'll be back shortly.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makwini?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them the same person who was in your house every day because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, this resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Silvanus Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma namwambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
High chance of rain in Nairobi this morning, 18 degrees and mostly cloudy. Highs of 23, back down to lows of 15. It's partly sunny at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's raining in Nyeri at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 14. We'll also see low 14 in Eldoret. It's mostly cloudy now at 17 and it'll go to highs of 24. Rains continue in Mombasa at 26, highs of 28 today. And we'll see highs of 29 in Malindi, where it's raining at 27. Thunderstorms, heavy ones, continue in Kisumu. 28 will be the high and lows of 19. Thunderstorms also taking place in Kakamega. 26 will be the high and lows of 17. It's raining in Kampala at 20, highs of 25. We'll see lows of 18 and mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Dar es Salaam. Highs of 31 and lows of 24. It's 24 and mostly cloudy in Lagos. Highs of 32 today. And we'll see highs of 32 as well in a cloudy Kinshasa. We'll see lows of 23.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Still continues in most parts around the city this morning. We are now in the belly of traffic hour and we're looking at traffic on Gong Road coming off Rilo Ding, and this is coming off of Langata Road. It's quite busy. Uhuru Highway is going to take quite a lot of punch this morning, coming in from all sides, north, south, east and west. And we're also looking at the Thika Superhighway, which is crazy, coming all the way from Survey out towards the Pangani Underpass. Kiambu Road, back to back, bumper to bumper is what we're looking at now. Wangari Maathai Highway, that started after we saw that drama coming off Ring Road Westlands, going towards Chiromo, and then there. Uhuru Highway going well into the CBD, out towards Westlands, so everybody meets and the traffic circles back. All right, let's take a look at industrial area. That continues. And also the Southern Bypass is still moving really slowly. Snail's pace traffic heading out in that direction because of drama that's coming off of Mombasa Road this morning. Okay, let's keep an eye on things, folks. What's happening where you are? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life.
23 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, and CT Muga. We are live on KTN Home, Spice FM on YouTube and on Facebook. We want you to participate in the conversation. 0719-012-600. Has democracy been exemplified in the party primaries? Has democracy been exemplified in the party primaries? Are they democratic? Are they actually just showing us that we are moving well towards democracy, where the people participate in an exercise, they come out, they feel that exercise was free, it was fair, it was democratic, it was transparent and credible. All those things that election observers usually say. Do you think there was, City?
Again?
Has democracy been exemplified in the party primaries?
Yes. If you're looking for a one-word answer, yes. And why I say yes is because democracy is not a term, it's not a process that ends when you have an activity like an election. It's a part of our lives that is continuously evolving. So, do I see democracy? I most certainly do. I look at the statements being made. I look at just what's happening in the political space. I look at the number of political parties that are there. Essentially, in my mind, they exemplify the diversity of thought and processes that people have, and the ability for them and the freedom for them to actually formulate into groupings that can carry forward the agenda that they have in place. Yes. And am I seeing these coalitions that we talk about and we see on a daily basis as being part of that process, the answer is yes.
Before we pick Zachary's call, because I know he'll have a different opinion on this, do you think that this consensus building, negotiated democracy that's being done at the political party offices is democratic?
Absolutely democratic. It's absolutely democratic. You see, we want to put democracy into a box, and we're not even certain of what this box looks like. How many sides this particular box even has. What color it has, how many rooms there in this box, and whether it's well lit. But we want to. And usually the box we want to put it in falls into just one categorization, the box that suits our interests. Okay? That a party has a way in which it does things. The only time it becomes undemocratic is if it goes against the norms that it's supposed to abide by, which it sets itself. Then you can say, but they're going against the rules. Okay? But so long as they're not, or they're going against the rules that have been set up at the national level with the Political Parties Act.
Or they're manipulating the rules.
Yes, but if that is not the case, then it's absolutely democratic. The only problem is, when you mention the word democracy, people immediately think people must go and yes. Not so. Not so.
It's democratic even when party organs sit back and decide who the candidates are going to be.
It is democratic. You may not think so, but it is.
Well, I think this all comes with then who and how you define your democracy. And I think, unfortunately, for the longest time, we've been put into this straitjacket kind of box definition of what democracy ought to be. And I've always been an advocate for saying, can you then define how, or the lines within which you're going to operate as a democratic entity, whether you're looking at political parties or whether you're looking at nations, that what is our democracy going to look like? Now, if you've gone ahead to define that, right? If you know the lines within which you're coloring, and you're saying this is how we operate. Now, if you operate according to those standards, then absolutely, you're being democratic. But which definition are you then using of democracy to say this is how we're operating? Depending on the definition then you're using, then you can then answer yes or no. If you're going to go according to that which must be transparent and which must be fair, that there will be a winner and there will be a loser, and then the loser can accept because they have seen that we've all colored well, and you can say yes, you've been absolutely democratic. Now, if you say we are going to have direct nominations and one person has been, the ticket has been slapped on them, meanwhile, you've never given any indication that this is going to be the way in which you've been doing things, then absolutely no.
Then that's not democratic.
Been democratic.
You can't spring it on someone on the last minute. Let's hear from
Let's
our
hear
callers.
from Zachary, shall we?
0719-012-600. Zachary, Baboidera, good morning.
Oh, Baba Izira is okay here. And Waizira greet you all. Waizira, my daughter, greet you all people and says that, oh, these guys are making me learn a lot of things. Now, because I know we are on TV, let me go straight away to the point so that people know that, oh, Zachary is refined, yeah?
He's a serious man.
I know even the honchos are listening and probably watching, yeah?
Yes.
Let me tell you this, yeah? And I'm addressing the honchos, yeah? This, in fact, the only point that I agree with you, the panelists there, is only that they're saying that the only party that seems to adhere towards democracy and giving people a chance to decide what they want is only UDA, okay? And as, you know, the happenings, as we observe the happenings, we now come to understand that the Jubilee, the outfit called Jubilee was actually an individual outfit, okay?
Why?
It was because we are told that, okay, you met where, at that big house, I don't know how it is called or how it is spelled, and the honcho said it is this or it's this. Let me tell you, let me illustrate, yeah? If you are to go by consensus, everybody thought that Maura, the Mzungu, yeah, or Mruyu, would have gotten the UDA ticket. But when he was subjected to the populace, the electorate, yeah, people had an alternative idea, yeah. And I'm happy with him because he said, okay, if the people have decided this way, I'll bridge. Let us go to Bomet, yeah. We have the girl called Garototo. I hear a man is now heading there, trying to actually win her heart, yeah, and it is good, yeah. Look, she fraud some very, very mighty people there, okay? But in Jubilee, now that one is an indication that actually UDA is giving people a chance. And let me say this.
Jubilee or UDA, yeah? Zachary?
UDA.
Yep.
Did you say Jubilee or UDA?
I'm saying the guy of the top.
Yes.
He's in UDA.
Yes,
and
yes.
He's fraud. He's fraud, mighty people, yeah?
Okay.
This shows that UDA is actually on the ground. It is giving people a chance to air the year, right, yeah? If it is a place like Nairobi, whatever I said, look, Maura was told, you stay aside. We want this person. It is good, yeah.
Sawa tumekusikia. But let me remind you, Zachary.
Yep.
That the members of the ordinary members of UDA party in Nairobi are not going to participate in a queuing to vote for their candidates. That's already been determined via consensus.
In Mombasa, it is something similar. They have already determined people who are going to vie, and they've been given tickets.
Let me say this, and let me advise those people that any person who feels that he has got a touch with the ground, whether he's in UDA, whether he's in ODM or Jubilee, let them go thorough. Yeah? And I'm telling you, even people are going to contribute towards their campaigns. People themselves are going to contribute. Because this time around, Mr. Eric, as I finish, we are awoke. We are awoke. We know who is Du. We know who is Eric. We know who is
Thank you, Zachary. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good day. Karanja in Naivasha.
Good morning, Eric, Du and City.
Good morning, Karanja.
Yes, Du, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Now, let me say this, Eric. You see what happens, you need the UDA nominations in Naivasha constituency. Naivasha is constituencies. How comes that 400 voters was one? At the margin, in fact, the difference was one. Rook, we know. We are tired, Naivasha people are tired of this thing we call the gerrymanderings. We are tired of what we call the card borrows, I think you go in the channel to see what I'm talking about.
Those are big words.
Yes, gerrymandering and the card borrows, you see. It was a system used in America sometimes back. Where they say, we like these people, and because a few people like these people, we are going to give him the ticket. Okay. Let me say this. What happens in the party primaries? It was total shambolic nominations. It was fraud nominations. It was, in fact, UDA cannot conduct any good party primaries within Kenya.
Why?
The reason is the people who are allied to the president, to the UDA presidential candidates, they are the ones who have been given this thing. And let me tell you, Jamie Kara should not be happy in Naivasha East constituency. Now we have decided it is better we give an independent candidate, and if not so, we give the Jubilee candidate. Let them listen to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karanja. Robert in Nandi, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, good, and you people?
We are very well, thank you, Robert. Democracy in the primaries?
Never happy.
Aye.
Tena, why?
Yeah, I've never been a UDA member, but I went in to vote.
You participated in the UDA primaries?
Of course, it was an open thing.
As who?
As somebody. These guys gave us the arsenal to panga their house. So how do I give my favorite candidate in another party a stronger candidate in UDA?
By voting a weaker candidate.
Of course, kwani akili ni ya nini? And then too.
So is it possible? Did the party that you support hold primaries?
Yeah. No, it's not going to hold primaries.
Oh, yours is consensus.
Not consensus. We're just a strong candidate, and we know that guy will win, and the woman that we wanted to win. Because at the end of the day, the kind of a leader we choose, whether they are elected by guys in UDA or Jubilee, is going to be the leader who's going to win in our place. So if we find a place whereby there might be a guy who may not be a good leader, and you are given a chance to make sure that unamaliza hapo, so you go for the primaries and finish him there.
So are you saying that, what we are seeing, for example, very many new faces, let's say in UDA in these areas, Wasingishu, Nakuru, Nandi, Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo, Kericho, Bomet, that it was people such as yourselves, enemies of UDA, going to disrupt the exercise?
Not enemy of UDA. We wanted the best people to get out of those primaries. Because if we didn't participate in it, there was a possibility of manipulation and things that maybe UDA would get as guys that they are favored in the head office or by persons top there. So we give, even the UDA nomination was very funny. How do you go teaching people that you need poor people to be in leadership and you are coming here with a V8? How? So umewapatia kisi ya kukuchinja.
Robert.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that UDA did the best it could to have a democratic process, but then it was infiltrated by other parties.
But then which democratic process? To themselves or to the nation? Look at it like this. If you were to go by that, then that all of us were voting, then what is the popularity of UDA? Because I possibly who is not a UDA, maybe in Kano, another guy who is in ODM, another guy who is in Ford Kenya, we are all voting UDA nomination. Then what is the popularity of UDA?
Point made. Thank you very much, Robert. Have a good day, you spoiler. Josephine in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Josephine. Please switch off your radio.
I'd just like to comment on this consensus process. When aspirants, like 5 or 4 people, decide they are going for the same seat, and then now we are told that they were put in a room and they have agreed who is going to be the flag bearer. I don't think that is a democratic process at all. Because the decision that 190 are supposed to make is given to 4 people or 5 people. So that really takes away the right of 190 in the process.
The ordinary party member is denied an opportunity to choose their candidate.
To participate. So for me, I think that is the most absurd thing.
So if we look at it, Josephine, this is actually contained in the political party constitutions of the various parties. Are you saying that it is unconstitutional from the very beginning?
It is unconstitutional. Those things should be challenged. Yeah.
Okay. Good point made. Thank you very much, Josephine. Let's cross over to Mombasa. Eliud, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, you see, this thing called democracy is about contesting. So these are 2 people who are of different opinions, and they are there to convince Mwananchi to vote for them. So when you are saying that there is democracy or there's no democracy, it's in a balance. So let's look at an MCA, let's look at a governor, let's look at an MP. These are different levels, and they are contesting to convince one person to vote for them. And if you look at the margin of win, it's always very small. Either 2 or 3 persons, who you are able to convince. So everybody will ever say that either I win or I did not win, which we are also able to see it at the presidential race. So democracy is there is a very slim margin when you are talking about democracy.
At the
end of it
does it exist or does it not?
Sorry?
Does democracy then exist or not?
It exists at an individual square, like an MCA. Did you win or you lost? Because no one will ever agree that I lost. Or no one will ever agree that I won fairly.
Because the arbitrator, the person who decides whether I won or I lost, is the returning officer. Maybe, yes. But from where I sit, I won. Even the one who lost, who came closely second, he'll be thinking that he won. So there is still space for democracy in Kenya.
Okay.
Only that if you're able to manage our differences and accept winning or losing at the end of the day.
Thank you, Eliud. He's basically saying we still have some way to go.
Oh, look, I think there's a lot of room in terms of what needs to be done. And also it depends on, who are you holding a yardstick up against, right? However, I still think that there's a lot to be done. There's an interesting comment here from Sarawiwa who says that one wonders how the elections will be going by the violence witnessed in the party primaries, right? So violence what? Violence as a result of dissatisfaction with how the process was going. And you must have to, you must look at things like that and say, would there be violence if things were going in a manner in which everybody would see or deem it as fair? Of course, you're going to have your rotten apples here and there who are just going to cause a ruckus just because they can. But by and large, I think you are right. By and large, that we've seen a better process than we've ever seen before. If you want to do a comparative analysis between what happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you're looking at this stage, whereby things would just be done the way you want to do them. But now you're involving more people. People can actually go and have their disputes resolved. People can now go and say, look, I don't think this happened in the way in which it ought to happen. And a tribunal will listen to you and hear you out. This did not happen before. And I think that as these processes continue to play themselves out, that if there was a barometer upon which now you get pegs and you keep going up, I think we'd have gained a few pegs. I think we'd have gained a few pegs and said, okay, fine. The process looks a lot cleaner. It looks a lot clearer. Are you going to have people who are disappointed? Yes. I'd rather you have disappointed participants because truly the people decided, rather than you have disappointed participants because the process was flawed.
Maybe this is the false sense of victory or security, so to speak. Let's also remember that in this particular election, we have seen a very many more political parties being active with candidates. Where in areas where you know that it was going to be all these strong personalities contesting for this particular party's ticket, you are seeing some people who have basically gone with some smaller parties and they're saying, I'm not subjecting myself to the internal democracies of that big party. I am here. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to be in another little known party. Maybe the issue then will come in August when all those people, whether independent, whether in the small cow party, the big service party, ODM, UDA, all of you will be subjected to the same process. Now that maybe would be a proper test of our democracy. A proper test whether we actually now trust the process. Because like you're saying, why are we witnessing these incidences of violence? Violence even happening before the voting takes place, on the day of the voting. It's because of not trusting. Why are we opening the polling station late? You do not want to hear that the party could be experiencing logistical challenges. Password. Why?
Why?
What
That's
do you
interesting
mean?
that you bring that up, though. That can we get to a point whereby you have one standard set of requirements to which every party will be beholden? That this is how we're going to do it. It doesn't matter which party you are. And we just need to... The entity then is making sure that everybody is behaving in the same manner. Wouldn't that be interesting for you to get to that point where all parties are operating under one ambit?
That one, I think, is left for the general election. Then you are all subjected to the same rules. It doesn't matter on which ticket you want to vie. It doesn't matter, but same.
When you get here. Maybe at the political party level, that may be overreaching and not allowing the party
to exercise its own right.
Its own internal democracies.
Remember, if you consider, for instance, just what is required for someone to get to the level where you are in that, what we call a general election, it's a long process. And all these processes that we're talking about are informing the voter as to what it is they could and could not do. Whether the nominations were successful, whether people think they were flawed. This is just information that the voter is absorbing. But the fact that people have options, more options than they've ever had. To me, you can't get more democratic than that.
Indeed. Thank you very much for keeping it locked to Spice FM. In the next hour, we talk about what's happening in Marsabit County. As we keep, talking about political parties, people queuing to vote and all, in Marsabit, people are queuing to bury their dead because people are just being shot left, right and center. There's an escalation of violence in Marsabit County. What's causing this? A commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, Danvas Makori, will be with us. And Geddy Amamo, who is from Marsabit and wants to be a woman rep, will be with us in the studio. That's a conversation coming up. Remember, go to Naivas Supermarket, buy Colgate. 10 bob out of that will go towards sinking wells. 30 wells by the end of this calendar year to help communities. This is a good initiative by Colgate and Well Boring. Thank you very much for also watching us on KTN Home. The conversations continue on Spice FM and online. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.
Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has arrived at the KICC for the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance Coalition Party's first council meeting. Those present include Raila Odinga, NARC Kenya's Martha Karua, Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, and a Mombasa counterpart Hassan Joho. Other coalition members who are expected include Taveta MP Naomi Shiban, Kandui Legislator Wafula Munyinyi, Muranga Woman Representative Sabina Shege, Abdi Nur Omar Farah, and Suna East MP Junaid Mohammed, who is the party's National Coalition Executive Council Secretary General. The meeting comes a week after the coalition was officially registered as a political outfit on April 14, 2022. Registrar of Political Parties Andy Ritu made the announcement in a Gazette notice in which she enlisted all the 26 parties affiliated with the coalition. Among issues expected to be discussed include campaign preparations ahead of the August 9th elections, the Nairobi gubernatorial race, and the deputy president's position. Later, President Uhuru Kenyatta is also expected to chair a regional meeting on the Democratic Republic of Congo in Nairobi. Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the government has invited heads of state and government from other East African community countries including Burundi, Rwanda and Uganda. DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi is also set to attend the meeting. It is a follow-up to the recent summit that saw DRC sign up to formally join the regional bloc. President Kenyatta, who is also the chairperson of the EAC during the signing, pointed out that the accession signature immediately brings DRC Congo into the realms and provisions of all the protocols and regional policies of the EAC. Now, Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga has told of aspirants who originally sought the party ticket but then jumped ship soon after losing out in the ongoing primaries. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance presidential flag bearer faulted the move, terming it as selfish and an affront to the democracy of the party and the nation at large. Odinga asked losers of the prospective seats to uphold loyalty to the party and the ideologies it stands for ahead of the August polls. He similarly urged the successful candidates to spread the message of peace and unity across the country, saying his aim is to see a united Kenya. Now, leaders of the Anglican Church are today expected to hold a press conference to discuss the state of the nation. These leaders include the clergy and other church leaders. The conference, to be held at the All-African Conference of Churches in Nairobi, will address various issues facing the nation, including the August 9th elections as well as the economic and political status of the elections approach. The report comes just 2 days after Anglican Church leader Bishop Jackson Olisapit urged the REBC to make every effort to ensure that this year's elections are free and fair. He also urged Kenyans to continue to maintain peace and to ignore leaders who incite them against their peers. He was speaking when the IEBC met with various stakeholders earlier this week. Now, 2 suspects who were involved in the brutal murder of Joel Juma, the JKUAT student who was murdered, have been arrested by DCI sleuths. Joseph Mushiriala's agent and Paul Mbatha were arrested following a manhunt that was launched by undercover agents. Their arrest followed a detailed forensic analysis of the scene conducted by crime scene experts based at the DCI National Forensic Laboratory, leading the detectives to the identity of the suspect. The first suspect was seized from his hideout in Kiandutu, Thika Town, while the second was arrested in Gashororo, Juja area as he tried to escape the DCI dragnet that had been extended to Murang'a County. According to the DCI sleuth, the detectives on the case say they are closing in on the third suspect and efforts to find him are at advanced stages. The suspects have since confessed to taking part in the murder and are being processed for arraignment today. Now, Google has announced its first product development center in Africa to be located in Nairobi. The new product development center will help to create transformative products and services for people in Africa and around the world, and will be hiring visionary engineers, product managers, UX designers, and researchers to lay foundation for significant growth in the coming years. Last October at the Google for Africa event, the CEO Sundar Pichai announced a plan to invest $1 billion over the next 5 years to support Africa's digital transformation. This investment focuses on enabling fast, affordable internet access for more Africans, building helpful products, supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses, and helping non-profits to improve lives across Africa. In 2018, Google also opened an artificial intelligence research center in Accra, Ghana, to help drive useful innovations. The new product development center is a continuation of that commitment and will be working towards building for Africa and the world. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Okay, what folks are describing it as an absolute mess on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're going out towards the Maritime. Outbound, not too much of an issue. Inbound, it's absolutely crazy. We're coming off Old Mombasa Road, and that's really slow. As you get then towards Cabanas and then out towards General Motors, slows down considerably. We're looking at some spillover to then North Airport Road and then out towards Outer Ring. That continues. The Southern Bypass had a problem this morning coming off the Likoni interchange, and there's still the dregs of that we're dealing with at a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Langata Road also still busy. We're looking at Uhuru Highway just after that Lusaka Road roundabout, and then getting towards Haile Selassie at the roundabout, out towards the CBD into Westlands. That's crazy. That whole area coming off Chiromo, Ring Road, Westlands, Wangari Maathai Way. Okay, so yeah, there's traffic there. We're also looking at the Thika Superhighway coming then towards the Pangani underpass. It's getting a little bit better coming off of Kiambu Road, but then that still continues. Let's keep an eye on things. Half an hour or so, we'll take a look back and see. Then let's talk. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
good morning,
not down.
To the third hour.
This is
it's the fourth.
Well done.
What? The fourth hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Thursday morning. We're here from 6 a.m. until 10 o'clock every weekday morning, 21st day of March 2022. City Muga has the day's proverb before we welcome our guests to the show.
Right. I was about to say our guest is from Togo.
Our guest is from Togo.
No, it's actually our proverb that is from Togo. Breed a serpent and he will strike you when you are in deep slumber.
Breed a serpent and he will strike you when you're in deep slumber.
So don't breed a serpent. Or if you do breed a serpent, be ready to be struck. Abi?
Yes. If you breed a serpent, don't expect anything less.
You know, the breeding comes in as an important contributor to this particular statement. Is breeding means you keep it and you feed it.
Yes, no.
So you've brought about a situation of familiarity.
Or comfort.
And at some point, you likely forget that it's actually a serpent and you forget its true nature. Yes.
Entertain nonsense.
It is a predator.
And you will suffer one day. Say no to nonsense at all times. Gedia Mamo is from Marsabit County. She wants to be the next woman rep in Marsabit. And she's hoping that at least by the time we get to August 9th, a sufficient number of her voters will still be alive. Because the insecurity in Marsabit has just been like that serpent.
It is shockingly alarming.
Yes. It has been allowed to remain in place. It has not been addressed for decades. And it is a big issue. Getia, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in the Situation Room. That is the hot seat. So occupy it, enjoy it. You come from Marsabit County, the largest county by landmass in the country. If you were to put Nairobi plus, how many other counties would we join around Nairobi to make Marsabit?
I'm not sure, but I know it's about 72 kilometers squared.
2 kilometers squared is a lot. It's like here you get to near Naivasha, then you go the same distance of here to Naivasha around. My friend, just think Machakos Ndani.
We're putting in Nairobi, Kajiado, parts of Kajiado at least, Machakos, Kiambu, Muranga.
Thika definitely in its Muranga.
It's that big.
Sure.
The largest county by landmass. And you are traversing that entire county, seeking votes so that you can come and represent the people in the National Assembly. What do you do?
I quit my consultancies to join politics. I'll begin from there. But previously, I've worked with the county government as a chief officer for tourism, culture, and social services. And then I've engaged in consultancies about governance with development partners like USAID, European Union, on governance mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the time that you worked in the county government, which was it? Was it in this term or in the previous term?
In the previous term, 2014 to 2017.
Under then Governor Ukur Yatani.
Sure.
And you were in charge, you were the PS for tourism.
Yes.
What was the job?
First of all, it's about forming the very basic foundation of even a county government, because it was at the inception and implementation of the new constitution. So starting from zero, as you know, part of, let's say northern Kenya didn't have most of these ministries, like Ministry of Tourism, or Department of Tourism. There was nothing like that. So it's basic structures. In 4 years, chief officers joined 1 year later. So we joined the county governments in 2014. So in the 4 years, we're doing the basic structures, offices, staffing, and then as well as trying to just bring to life tourism. Marsabit is beautiful. Besides the killings, just as being stupid and foolish, it's beautiful. It is home to imagine a forest, a very dense forest, a microclimate, which is just the Marsabit National Park. It has the desert, the only true desert in East Africa. We wouldn't be going to Dubai, we'd just be going for desert safaris just here at home. So the landscape, the culture, I know you hear about Borana and Gabra and Rendile. We actually have 14 communities, all with distinct, cultures. So it's beautiful. So that's all things we were telling the world. And we were, by the time, or even today, we were on the, Kenya Tourism Board calendars for events, for cultural festivals, for desert tours. Yeah, so that is what we were bringing out. And that is what, sadly, we're also killing by the conflicts. Yeah.
So it's all about that, the resources. You have a national park, you have a desert, you have Africa's largest wind power plant. You have all these things, and yet the 14 communities are involved in non-ending conflict. You said it's just stupid.
Sure.
Why do you say it's just stupid?
Because as opposed to what's on the media, that it's over pasture and water for livestock, that's not what it is. It's stupid for me because it's about politics. It's just about very few selfish politicians trying to, by conflict, put the ethnic groups together. If I get killed in Borana, I'll hear my political leader say, the enemies are killing us. So we'll shrink back together as Borana or shrink back together as Gabra. And you, as a politician seeking a seat, you're sure of my community is intact. Because now I'm not losing any of my vote to the other person. And unfortunately, most of the time, the people running for the big office is Borana against Gabra. It's different. It's a bit different this year, though. So I think
How is it different this year?
Because this year we have also the Rendiles running for governor. Again, we don't have a sole candidate for Borana versus a sole candidate for Gabra, where, Gabras will rally behind their sole candidate against Boranas against their sole candidate. And then Rendile will be always split into two. And Burji is also into two because they've always been given the deputy. You as a Gabra take deputy to be a Burji, the Gabra does the same. The Gabra takes Rendile for Senate, the Borana does the same. The rest of us minorities align yourself wherever. So it's a bit different because Rendiles have decided we can as well become a governor.
What community do you come from? I was always going to ask you that question anyway.
Let me say, born Sakuye, and I'm married to Rendile.
So Sakuye is also one of the 14 communities.
Sure.
In terms of comparison by number, if you look at the Borana, Gabra, Rendile, Burji, and Sakuye, how many are you as Sakuye?
According to the 2019 census, I'd say Borana is probably 260,000, Gabra is about 150, Sakuye is just 30,000. And we have El Molos in the same county are about 1,000.
What about the Turkana? Because you border Turkana anyway.
Yeah, we do. I wouldn't.
Are they significant?
Sure. Probably about 10,000 because they're just, as neighbors living in Marsabit. But Turkana is in the country about 1 million population. Yeah. But in Marsabit County, would say maybe 10,000, not so many, sure.
Yeah, even as you say these things, I mean, it seems like it's common knowledge that obviously this is not a resource conflict that is seeing, unfortunately, people dying in this manner. You've been able to figure it out. The next person has been able to figure it out. So then it's no mystery that those who are doing these killings, who are operating in this manner, also know very well that in some cases, they're being used by political leaders or political aspirants to do this. Why do you think they continually engage in this if they know that they're being used as tools?
I would say the common Wananchi would not even really know, because you're coming for burials and telling me, Eric, our Gavra's son has been killed by Borana. This is what they're making it very emotional, and you're sounding like you're defending them, and you're saying they're trying to take our land. Again, it's about boundaries. It's about expansionism. Like I said, 5 kilometers off from whatever direction of the Saku, where this conflict always happened, the headquarters is the desert. Whatever direction, it's just a microclimate that is like right now. If you go very misty, foggy, that's why we don't even that's why we have so many plane crashes to Marsabit. But 5 kilometers from whatever direction is not. It's a different weather, and it's like the two communities are fighting for this.
So everybody is fighting to occupy this Saku place.
Yes, and so my leader will come and say they're taking our land. Recently, one of the leaders said, "You should die for your land." And so, you see, again, illiteracy in my county is up there, 80%. So
80.
you know how it is easy to manipulate such a population. So they may not even know. That's why the few of us that have understood, I wouldn't also say the elites are doing anything about it. It looks like the more educated they are, they also become very ethnic.
But manipulate with what? Because I think that's also the question. That what is the trade-off for this? Because many would ask the question that what is somebody getting in return to take the lives of others? And I can be manipulated into such a state. What then is on the table? Are we talking about money? Are you talking about position? And even then, what position are we talking about? Money for a day? A position as the leading tribe or leading community? What are we looking at that's on the table?
It's that we're in power. My community is the governor. My community is the senator. It's the power. I've been made to feel as a citizen that if you're not in power, you're going to be killed by the other people. So vote me in. You know, it's about that. It's about the other tribe is taking your land. So where will you live? So where will you, raise your kids? It's fear. It's just some kind of fear instilled in people. It's lack of education by the likes of me that are neutral to the communities. We're just starting. Again, I would say it's a laxity by government. I don't hear government asking the residents of other parts of the country, what is the solution to this problem?
Exactly.
They actually get in and solve. And when the president twice gives my political leaders ultimatums to, come up with solutions, I feel like he's gambling with my life. As a citizen. Why are you telling them 2 weeks ultimatum, come up with solutions? And then
people who are killing each other, sit and have a conversation and agree how you're going to stop killing each other.
I don't see that happening in Laikipia County. Even a rumor that there's going to be trouble in Laikipia, the government will do the best and say, guys, we can't afford this rumor coming true.
Well,
what about Marsabit? We're dying every day. So I'm thinking, it's a part of the country. Sorry, I'm not such a happy woman coming from there. It's like Animal Farm. I feel the three of you are more Kenyan than me, yet we're in the same country. It's like you can announce your presidential candidates before results of Marsabit are in. I mean, are we important?
The winner is announced before Marsabit.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you're ahead by 1 million, and those guys are only bringing how many votes? 150. It's insignificant, 150,000. Sorry.
So you said it's not about resources, and yet you say it's about resources. Because the word that your leaders are using to incite one another is these people are taking away our land. These people we need to occupy this particular area. We need to be the ones who live in this corner of Marsabit. So it's about resources.
Yeah, it's about resources. It's not about pasture and water for the animals.
Okay.
As is out there, people.
So by resources, we always assume it's grazing lands.
Which is not the case. Because otherwise, they've been living, grazing together, sharing water together for the longest time. Because this conflict is not, 100 years back. It's maybe as old as me, maybe 30 years or so. Again, I think there's lack of reconciliation. I'm thinking of the Torbi massacre of 2005. A child born then is about 17, 16 years.
Yeah.
A child, someone who was in Form 3 like me then, were in our early 30s. And I lost my friends, I lost my mom, I lost my siblings.
Tell us about that, the Torbi massacre.
So
there are many people, like you're saying, who are in their 30s who don't even know anything like that. What happened in 2005?
Back in Marsabit, we know. There was massacre where Borana attacked the Gabra. Torbi, again, our way of settlement is just tribal. You'll mention Torbi to anyone in Marsabit and know that's a Gabra town. You'll say Sololo and it's definitely a Borana town. So what happened is Torbi was attacked and women and primary school kids were killed. And my point was there hasn't been reconciliation for these people that are affected. I am in my 30s. I lost my mom then. And here I am now. I'm feeling like I can revenge. Nothing was done to me, and we're so many in thousands in numbers. So we can do our worst. I'm thinking we're not doing reconciliation. We're saying forgive and move on.
You're not healing.
There's no healing. So I'll go attack the other communities. So retaliatory revenge. So it's revenge, most of it.
So what we're seeing is a culture that has evolved over time, where people live in an ecosystem where revenge killings, vendettas is the norm. Anything that happens, conversations don't take place. People revenge by killing back. So you count numbers. So their understanding of reconciliation, you kill one of us, we kill 10 of yours.
Sure.
And then it continues. And it's continue. You said 80% illiteracy.
Yep.
Hey.
That's high.
Sure.
Have you heard, you're talking about reconciliation and cohesion and healing. There's a commission that is maintained by Kenyan taxpayers. It's a constitutional commission, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Their commissioner, Danvas Makori, is joining us on video link. We'll talk to him shortly. But have you engaged with this commission? Has the community felt NCIC on the ground coming and saying, all right, let's look back. The historical issues that we've had, how can we resolve them going forward? How can we address these things?
Yes, we know NCIC. They've tried. They've done dialogues with these communities, Boranas alone, Gabras alone, bringing them together with Burjis and Rendiles. I have at one point even worked with consulted for NCIC as a neutral rapporteur for this community meetings, because they felt then if we take a Borana to report or a Gabra to do the report, it will be biased. So let's take someone who will capture for us, and mostly because of the language they speak. I think they've done their best. They're very friendly, but then again, as a government, we put commissions in place, but then we're not letting them do their work.
What do you mean?
Like I'd seen what NCIC wanted to do. The focus, they've even said certain commissioners in the commission will handle this case and not stop until it's done. I remember last year's International Day of Peace was supposed to happen in Moyale, and they dedicated, let's do it in Marsabit where it's burning and preach peace. Let these people talk to the rest of Kenyans and understand that they don't have to die for politicians. But this didn't happen because around the same time the president calls its leaders and says, we'll just give you an ultimatum to go and talk to each other. You see, we have kind of made the commission shelf their programs. Again,
so
while we're waiting
the executive is basically just coming in and frustrating the work that NCIC has been trying to do.
I wouldn't say frustrating, but...
Don't worry, let us say it for you.
Why would they do that? Why would, of course, the president has reports on his desk. Why would the president, knowing what NCIC is doing, getting the reports of what NCIC is doing, why would he come in and say, all right, no, forget about that. Let's bring in the leaders. You guys, ultimatum.
But Eric, how would that interfere? I mean, the fact that leaders are coming in to talk, how would that directly interfere with it? And can they not find a merge so that what the president said is included in what it is that they're trying to do? Like when our guest talks about holding this Peace Day in a particular place, surely what stops them from having this conversation and whatever it is that they wanted to do together with this meet? Because if the elders or the leaders are going to meet, they are going to meet at some point. But why not merge it with this particular day when we all know what the significance of the day? I mean, what stops all these things from being brought into place so that it all happens?
That's what I call it frustration.
You're in the frustration?
Yes. Because why was NCIC not involved in that conversation? Okay, youth leaders come, sit down, NCIC is here. What are you guys, what has NCIC been doing? What would you like to see happen?
I think they were involved. I think they were in the meeting together with the president. But the thing is, I'm just saying, if I wanted to go and say, as a commission, we're just going to tell the government, take Marsabit over. Devolution is becoming difficult. It's just not working for them. It's become something to kill them than helping them. So take it. I mean, let it. If Nairobi was taken, I'm thinking they're protecting money more than people's lives. you know. So if you're thinking my Nairobi money is being misused, so let's do Nairobi Metropolitan. And we're dying, and it's not serious. I don't feel like a Kenyan, you know.
Is this? I mean, I hear you say this, and I mean, like you said, somebody who's neutral, somebody who is educated, somebody has these feelings. Is this mirrored across community, whether educated or not? Are there people who still feel as though they've been marginalized to the point where they don't feel Kenyan? And are there people who want to have something different, who want to have this situation end? Because on one hand, we have people who can still be manipulated, but then we're also saying that there are some people who say, look, this has got to stop. So where is the larger number sitting? Or is it shared equally?
As it is now, the Borana and Gabra are the majority, and they don't talk to each other, let's say. They don't, especially this year. They're not talking. Even friends that are have stopped being friends. They've lost each other. Borana have lost Gabra friends. Gabra have lost Borana friends. It's bad this year because we've lost so many people this year. So the rest of us put together, the minorities. Well, let's say there are some communities that are taking sides, and especially because it's a electioneering year. As a Burji, I may not want to lose my deputy governor position. As a Gari, I wouldn't want to lose my women rep position, as you know. Yeah. So the majority of the minority of us, again, have taken sides, aligned either to Gabra or Borana. There's just few of us that are thinking it's nonsense, it should stop, this is madness. But again, we also can't come out, not so many of us can come out and say these things for fear of being killed. I mean, if someone is shot a kilometer from the police and the county commissioner's office and they just disappear into thin air, I would just be stupid to go and trying to preach peace there. I'll be shot dead and no one will care.
There'll be no action.
Yeah. So I would blame the government. People say we're blaming the government, but it's true.
Let me ask this
and
question.
just 2 days ago,
Yes,
go ahead. 2 days ago, CS Matiang'i said, we're now going to come into Marsabit and you will not like it.
Addressing whom?
He was addressing the Catholic.
He was speaking to the clergy last week, and in that meeting is why they said, okay, so we had given you a 30-day window so that local leaders can initiate the peace and come up with peace. And then there were still complaints that, nothing much has happened. So Interior CS Fred Matiang'i said that the decision to deploy the specialized units to the violence-hit county is subject to approval by the National Security Council. He was talking to the Anglican Church of Kenya bishops and senior clergy in Nairobi. And he said, you know what, the time has now come. We are still seeing killings. We are going to deploy special units to this area, and we cannot allow this to continue happening. And we know it's political.
Said the same thing in
we have to stop this. It is serious. You wanted to ask a question, City, before we bring in Dr. Danvers Makori.
What I wanted to ask is, traditionally, communities would have their differences, and there were mechanisms by which people went about seeking reconciliation. Are you saying that these mechanisms don't exist, or if they existed, they've gone to the dogs completely?
Everything has been monetized, even elders, just after tokens and some money. And in a pastorally community, it's mostly the men elders that are consulted.
Who make these decisions?
These ones have now become politicians. So they're as good as our political leaders. Again, this reminds me the role of women and youth in talking peace, in peace building in Marsabit, has been shelved. Even NCIC will try and include us in meetings as women and youth, but they'll not come because of culture, because of religion.
So what you're saying, an internal mechanism for resolving this cannot work?
It cannot work. Because even each community has 2 or 3 council of elders. That's already wrong, If we don't have
each opposing the other.
Yes. Right. So you're internally opposing each other. So we will not have. It's just the government to do what it needs to do.
Let's bring in Dr. Danvers Makori, a commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Dr. Ari, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We know we got you out of a meeting that you've been holding. But you've heard what our guest Gedya Mamo has been saying, the situation in Marsabit. We've even been seeing it in the news. It's just getting out of hand. It's been out of hand for a long time. You have participated in efforts to try and understand what the issues are here and to try and resolve the conflict in this region. What exactly is happening on the ground now, and what's NCIC doing?
Thanks, guys. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All, and I'm grateful to be here. Eric, I get a little bit emotional when it comes to Marsabit because I've spent a lot of life actually being here. And there's much we have done, and I'll just quickly list them the things we've been doing. But before I do that, even what's been happening in news, or what you've seen in news, doesn't even capture the reality of what's happening in the ground in Marsabit. It's worse than it's being reported. I think it's way worse. The reality on the ground is actually news rarely captures the reality. I can tell you, for me personally, every day, every morning, I can get a call from the commissioner or the police commander. 3 people have died, 5 people have died. Or our monitors on the ground, or partners on the ground. It is way worse than it is being reported. Now, that being said, I'm going to summarize what's happening in the ground as in this phrase. I'm going to use this word very carefully, and I know I'm using it. What's happening in Marsabit is a slow motion genocide.
Wow.
You know, exactly what's happening in Marsabit. It's a slow motion genocide, and we, for some reason, we've allowed it to happen and continue to happen. Why, I do not know. And for us as a commission, we've done our level best and above and beyond to make sure at least there is peace in Marsabit. We've led the peace process. And when it stalled, we escalated it high because stakes were very high because there was about to be more violence. So what we did actually, the meeting that you talked about here, is we escalated this issue to the highest office in the country, both the NSC and the president. And that's why he summoned all the leaders in the State House, because we at one point we said, you know what, we're hitting a snag here. We've done everything we can do in our power, given what we can. Let's escalate this issue. And we did. They were summoned, they were given an ultimatum, and the communique that was supposed to be released officially, which has not been, given what we had agreed with the leaders of Marsabit. But let me just quickly, if you allow me, just very quickly, give you the 5 issues in Marsabit in a structured way, so that now you can understand what we are doing and what we have done very quickly. Number 1 is existential political ethnicization. Okay? Existential political ethnicization. That is the core problem in Marsabit, which leads to number 2, a zero-sum approach to resource and power. Okay. Number 3, unresolved real and individual collective grievances. You've had Mamos speak especially about Turkey. We have unresolved real individual and collective grievances. The collective, villages have been wiped out, actually, I can tell you. I know men and women who have sat on peace tables who are no longer here, and they're deceased. They've been targeted because of this process. Then there's impunity. That's number 4. And number 5, which has been repeated here, government inaction to resolve the conflict. And that's the truth. So that's number 5, government inaction to resolve it. Because we have conflict in Kenya. We've had conflict in Ethiopia, in Lamu. I just came from Lamu a couple of weeks ago, and it is the most policed or militarized, I think, county right now as we speak in our country. And we had an incident, and there was quite response to that. There was a curfew. Things were done, and there's stability now. So the question is, why is not being in Marsabit? So Marsabit, it's not about talk, it's about what needs to be done. We've given our advice, some of the things we've advised, some of classified because of the nature of the issue, so we can't speak much. But I can tell you, if you list those issues I've given, it summarizes the complexity of the systems in the conflict in Marsabit. Now, for NCAC, I have gone further. We've gone further. I just came from New York, the UN, and at the DC. The main reason I was going there is one of them actually was one of course resource. In terms of it is a very expensive news process in Marsabit. So of course, engaging online community partners, say, you know what, we need more resources to engage there. But more importantly, we had a special meeting with the Undersecretary of Genocide Prevention, the UN, the Office of the Secretary General. Because, like I said, what is happening in Marsabit exactly what is that? And for me, I've escalated this to the highest level in our country and in the world so that there is attention, the spotlight to resolve it, because we have to resolve this issue. For me, when you go there and you see the mothers crying and the children crying and men who've lost families, and it is just devastating. Now with current drought and famine, it is not helping the situation any worse. So we've been adamant, we've been steadfast, we've escalated, we've been very consistent. And then sometimes I know the people in Marsabit are feeling like we are giving up, but we haven't. We've worked behind the scenes, we're pushing, we're lobbying, we've done what we can to make sure at least there is peace and long-term stability in the county of Marsabit.
Let's take a break on that note. You've told us very many things, Bono Commissioner. Basically, he's just calling it, this is a slow motion genocide that's taking place in Marsabit County. As we see being reported in the news, it's nothing close to what's actually happening on the ground. Every day, reports of 5, 10 or more people being killed, and yet the government is just dilly-dallying with the situation. Danva Somari is a commissioner with NCIC. Gedia Mamo is from Marsabit County. She's a resident of Marsabit. She wants to be the next woman rep of this county. We're talking about what's happening in that county and why it's taking so long. Let's take this quick break, take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we continue the conversation. What's wrong with Marsabit? This, let's now even call it the slow motion genocide in Marsabit. What can we do about it? 20 to 10.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
No, you know, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential, and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, this resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma namwambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 19. We'll see highs of 20. At 19, it's partly sunny now in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 15. The rain continues in Nyeri at 18. 23 will be the high and lows of 14. And we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions at 20 in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 14. It's still raining in Mombasa at 27. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 24. And in Malindi, the rain continues at 28, highs of 29 and lows of 25. Heavy thunderstorms continue in Kisumu at 22, highs of 28 and lows of 19. It's also heavy thunderstorms in Kakamega at 21. 26 will be the high and lows of 17. Rain continues in Kampala at 21, 25 with high, lows of 18, and it's now raining in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 34 and lows 31 and lows of 24. Mostly sunny conditions at 16 in Johannesburg, 21 will be the high, lows of 11, while it's sunny at 25 in Lagos. We'll see highs of 32. We'll see highs of 31 in a mostly sunny Kinshasa, currently at 24. At 24, Beijing is sunny. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 11 going into early evening, and it's sunny at 10 in Paris, highs of 20 and lows of 8. We'll see highs of 17 and lows of 7 in a sunny London, and it's 9 degrees and clear still Wednesday night in New York. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 15 and lows of 9.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Still a little bit sticky on Mombasa Road here and there. Just looking at that Maradima stretch is where we're going to have most of the issues. Then coming up towards the SGR is also moving slowly as you get off that hill over to General Motors and then out. North Airport Road looking a little bit better now. At that junction, however, leading towards Outer Ring, that is still looking slow. Lunga still doing the business this morning, as is Jogo Road getting out towards Landis. My goodness, Landis, back to back, bumper to bumper, left, right and centre. That's where we see traffic this morning. We're also looking at Uhuru Highway, which is quite messy as well, going into the city and then out towards Westlands. Raila Odinga Way, quite a lot of traffic then heading out towards Gong Road. All right, out of traffic hour around 10 o'clock or so, but it looks like we're going to stay for some minutes after that. Let us know what's going on through the morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, it's 9:45. The conversation continues in the studio with us is Ednah from Marsabit County,
94.4 Spice FM.
Position, and on the line is Dr. Danvers Makori, Commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Getia, as you've heard, Dr. Makori is basically saying this one, let's just call it for what it is. It's a slow-motion genocide, and there are very many things that NCIC has been trying to do. This issue has been escalated to the National Security Council, to the top office, the president. He's even gone to meet with the UN Under-Secretary in charge of genocide and saying, look, we need to monitor what's happening in the country. From the community's perspective, are the perpetrators of this violence known by the community? Do you know, from where you sit, from talking to your neighbors, from talking to your relatives, do you people know who is behind this?
Not so many of us are giants in politics from home. So there are very few, so we know them. The Minister for Interior said it's politics, it's selfish politicians that are behind this. So they also know. So we know. The problem is, as a resident of Marsabit, I cannot come out and name anyone.
Essentially, you'll be putting your life in danger.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, if a witness in Nairobi doesn't feel protected by the government, you can imagine in Marsabit. Again, these people, they're related. They've intermarried. I have friends who are mothers are Borana, the dad is Gabra, or vice versa. And they don't even know, how to identify themselves to what side.
They don't know whether they're Gabra or
Boranas. Because if you say you're Borana, you're doomed. If you say you're Gabra, you're doomed either way. So,
and yet, ordinarily, that is what would actually lead to peace.
Yes.
Because then, why would I be fighting? If I fight I identify as Gabra, fighting Borana, I'm fighting my own people. If I fight the Gabra, I'm fighting my own people. We should be getting to a situation where, because of this intermarriage, there'd be peace.
Has that region ever had a leader who is acknowledged as a leader in the community, the larger Marsabit community, and who has actually embraced other people from other communities within Marsabit? Historically, that is.
Historically, these people are one and the same thing. They speak the same language. They live in the same...
So what we're calling tribes or sub-tribes are actually clans?
Well, they all have their clans, yes. Like I'd say Gabras are camel keepers and Boranas are cattle keepers. That's maybe the one major difference. Yes. But then the rest of the thing, the prayers, the traditional cultures, the traditional systems of conflict resolutions are the same. And with time, because of climate change and all, even Boranas are not keeping cattle anymore. They find the camel being more resistant to the drought. And so they're all now camel keepers. They're now one and the same thing. I feel, as a Sakuye, I'm not even marginalized anymore. Even the El Molo is much better than my friends who are mixed of Borana and Gabra. These people cannot even get the CDF if they're mixed, because go get it from the Gabra or go get it from the Borana. So they're lost in between. I feel this are even special. This is something else. The special group marginalized, but yet they're from the two major.
Essentially, their leadership are the ones who have brought about this situation that we are discussing here. And they have followed suit. Are there people within these communities who have seen this game and have even stood against and said, no, folks, we're not putting up with this? Are there any people, or when you stand up, essentially, you become an ancestor immediately?
You're clobbered.
I think we've had people who have, but they've given up.
Right.
Like even the religious leaders, both Islamic and Christian, they used to speak about this on the radios to people in churches and mosques. They sit together, address the locals. I don't see that happening anymore. I think that it's become, it's nothing. We're just talking and nothing is happening. They've given up. We're even having women coming together and saying enough. We have a group of women now that saying we are going to march to the president. We're just going to tell him, well, are we Kenyans? Are we important to him? And I see now women coming up. I've seen elites trying to come together, but you'll call for a meeting. Either Gavras will show up and Boranas will not show up, or Boranas will come and Gavras will not come. So people are just tired, I'd say. Just like Commissioner said, the Commission is tired of telling them to talk to each other. They've said now it's a government thing. Uhuru, step in.
Sure.
That's what the Commissioner said. I think that's where it is. We're just tired of talking about it.
So Danvas, I mean, here we are, and I mean, here they're just telling us, look, we know who these people are. I mean, it's akin to the mafia stories that we hear. You know who the members of the gangs of New York, you know who these individuals are, but you're afraid to say because you fear for your life. It's a very real situation that we see today. So the question is, the powers that be, what exactly is stopping the powers that be, even from getting under the table information from community members and then doing something about this? What stops that from happening?
Actually, there's nothing stopping them from getting information. They have all the information. I can tell you that for a fact. They have all the information. I've always said when there is a will, there is a way. Is there a will? Because we talk a lot, but I think it's time for action. I've called for action for the past 1 year. Why? Because every day that goes by is the day that 3 people are going to die. So if I'm going to save a life today, I have having a special intervention. Well, let it be. You know, so it's. I can tell you, it's not that they are not known. They know. Everybody knows there. The list is there. The actors are known. Some of these leaders that have engaged, these actually are not the nicest people, I can tell you. But the fact is, they are known. The question is why the relevant authorities, because we have what we call a multi-agency approach to this issue. It's not just NCSA. We have, of course, the National Police. We have Ngao, which is the administration. We sit in the regional and both regional and county security intelligence committees. These names have been known. I mean, I can tell you for a fact. I mean, when you know somebody's a thief, you go arrest him. Like, there's evidence. There's clear evidence that some of the leaders, all of them, but some of the leaders aid and abet and support and push and this conflict. It's well known. Understand? And let me just say this, because you have a political aspirant to this show, and this is first of all to pivot further, because there are two people who can make a difference in Marsabit. One is the government. Two are the people of Marsabit. So now let me also address the people of Marsabit, because now they have an opportunity either to choose men and women who are proponents of peace and reconciliation and healing, or who will continue the same cycle of violence, who are warlords. That's what I'm going to call them. Okay? So they have a choice, because at one point, either you choose those leaders who espouse for peace, champion for peace, who bring you peace because you ought to be tired of this endless violence, or you continue with some of them who continued to preach hate, preach incitement, plant seeds of discord, or for political, or actually for expediency, for selfish interest. Because even if one leader says they are defending a community, really they are not. It's just their own selfish interest. That's a fact. They're not. Because the people who suffer, it's the old people. You know, if the Borana leader, the Boranas will suffer. It's the Gabra leader, the Gabras will suffer. They die. Both Boranas and Gabras have died in this conflict. But they have lost livestock in this conflict. Property, houses have been burned. Okay? If you go to the graveyards, they've marked with both communities. Okay? And even the Randilas too. Been caught up in the crossfire. We saw those kids who were killed the other day. So the fact is, people of Marsabit, if they can hear me, this is an opportunity this August actually to choose now leaders who will take Marsabit to the next level of peace, because other counties are not going what Marsabit is going.
But Daktari, let me just ask this question.
Yes.
Everything you're saying is actually true and it's desirable. But with the sort of conflict that we see there, what sort of election do you think they're going to have in Marsabit? People have been displaced. They're all over the place. They're
living in fear.
They're living in fear. Surely,
true.
I agree that is what they ought to do. But an environment in which they can actually do it has to be provided, and it's beyond them. This is something that only the government can do. The question I really want to ask, Danvas, is this. Who protects these people? Because you don't hear of arrests.
For the perpetrators.
Yes. You can't be a local warlord and continue warmongering and nothing happens to you. Someone is protecting you.
Of course.
Someone much, much higher up has given you that free pass.
Let me.
That's not the end of my question. To what end? Yes. Because these people don't perpetrate violence just for the sake of it. There's an end to it. To what end?
I think it's been alluded here. Resource is the end. Money and power is all because people are benefiting out of this system. I can tell you that for a fact. The people who actually are benefiting out of it. So when you see chaos in a place, there's somebody and it's being sustained over levels, and people are actually benefiting out of it. In Somalia, you have something called a war economy. There are people who don't want to see that conflict end because they're benefiting out of it. And that's how it is. And also, on one end, there is that part. Also, the other end is just sheer lack of will just to act, just to do what is right, to arrest these perpetrators and these criminals and people who perpetrate this violence. So it's a mixture of two. One, the fact is it's just lack of will, and number two, the people who are gaining out of this conflict system that we see in Marsabit. That's how it is.
When you say you're not seeing action being taken, what action would you like to see being taken today?
We what action similar to what is happening in Lamu, but not to that scale, because Marsabit is the largest county in this country by far. It is the size of Western, Central, Nairobi, Nyanza combined, and it still have more space. So you cannot physically deploy all city operators there. What we were getting for is a targeted approach, okay, where we have specialized units, because we know where these people are, we know who these people are, they are known, and just go after the infrastructure that supports this violence, the people and the entire infrastructure, the supply, the logistics network, the supply network, that aid and abate the movement of militias. And the people behind them, the financiers are known. Actually, if you go after the financiers, I can tell you it will dry up because they buy arms. Do you know how much an AK-47 costs? About 80,000. That is not chump change. How much is a bullet cost? About 200. You see, that's not some people finance these things. So there are financiers who finance these things. So go after them.
Okay. And you, Gedia, what would you like to see? What action would you like to see taken today? Specifics.
Let me just say, I had his question of how we're even going to do elections. The sad bit is, on the 8th of August, the government will actually take action to protect the ballot boxes and the ballot papers. We will actually come out and vote. But once you've cast your vote and you're back to your house by 5 or 6 in the evening, the ballot papers and the ballot boxes with the security is all gone and we're back to where we were. So we are going to vote, sadly, because we'll see security is here. Government will, the
government will actually be there.
Will actually be there. That is what I want to see happen now. I mean, the energy you will put in protecting the papers and the boxes, just put it on protecting my life.
Absolutely.
That's just it.
That's a strong point. And we thank you very much for joining us today, Gadi. There's a lot that needs to happen, and like Commissioner Danvas is saying, we need to make sure that this is a national headline for a long time until action is actually taken. We need to make sure that people know what is happening in Marsabit is worse than what we have ever witnessed for such a long time in this country. And we have to. Thank you, Danvas, and thank you, Gedia, for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for making this a headline. Thank you. You're saving lives by doing this.
Asante. Asante sana. It's our duty to do so. Concluding today's show, reminding you about Showmax, 700 and how much, City?
60.
760 shillings. That's
Kenya,
the minimum.
Kenya shillings.
Kenya. It's a Kenya. You subscribe from 760 and then you can choose whichever other package you want. Get to watch all this interesting programming that's available there. Videos on demand, movies, series, documentaries and all. And one of them is Crime and Justice Season 2, which is out. Tell us about water.
Absolutely. Ways in which you can help a child get a day off. Because when a child has to search for this resource of water and help their family fetch water, there's no such thing as a day off. You can help change that. Colgate is asking you to help support the future of our country, our children. Just like clean water, every little drop makes a difference. For every pack of Colgate you buy at the nearest Naivas store, you're helping build 30 water wells that will provide clean water to 120,000 Kenyans, and you can make a larger impact by your buy today.
Asante. City, Atitogolis say what?
They say that if you breed a serpent, bear in mind that they will strike you when you are in deep slumber. Unfortunately, the serpent is striking in Marsabit when people are wide awake.
Yeah, all wide awake.
Yes.
Gary, what do you call a snake in Sakuye?
Boff.
Boff. Boff.
Yes, boff.
B-O-F.
Yes.
Okay.
Aye. Boff. Have a good day, people. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Tomorrow is Friday. We'll be back here, God willing, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Have a lovely day. Now until 11, it's some music, and then you'll have Sugar and Spice from 11 onwards. Good morning, 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life